Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into moth-eaten velvet slippers for a moonlit stroll through a Saxon orchard where every rustle could be the wind or not. Picture this: gnarled apple trees older than your Wi-Fi password, air thick with the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. Oh, and if you're prone to jumping at shadows, maybe keep a nightlight on. You push the iron wrought gate, its creak echoes into mist-laced shadows. Rust flakes bite your palm like petulant confetti. Flickering light spills onto cobblestones worn smooth by centuries of feet peasants, nobles, maybe a few very lost goats. The lantern feels heavier now, as if the flame itself knows this place resists intrusion. Fun fact: Saxon manor walls were often built 4 feet thick, not for defense, but to keep the cider cool. Bet your fridge can't do that. Now lean close. See those crackle or cracks in the gate's hinges. Rumor says the blacksmith mixed crushed raven bones into the iron to ward off things that slithered up from the nearby bog. Did it work? Well, you're about to find out. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Seriously, if this freaks you out so bad you drop your phone, at least let the algorithm know why. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your boot meets the first cobblestone. Frost crystallizes under your heel. The gate swings shut behind you with a sigh. No going back now. Mist coils around your ankles, playful at first, then insistent. You raise the lantern. Its amber glow licks at something carved into the arch above, a weathered face with hollow eyes. The lips part in silent warning or invitation. Historians still argue whether Saxon gate carvings were mere decoration or deterrence for illiterate invaders. A breeze snakes through your jacket. Leaves rattle like dried bones, the orchard's nocturnal audience settling in. That's when you smell it: damp wood smoke and overripe apples. Not the festive cider kind, the something's been fermenting since the Norman conquest kind. Ahead the path forks. Left, right, neither looks welcoming. You choose straight. Saxon estates favored axial layouts, main paths leading straight to the mead hall or the burial mound. Potato, your lantern gutters. A single droplet of wax hisses on your knuckle. Watch your step. Those cobblestones aren't just uneven, they're sagging like a drunkard's mattress. Groundskeeper's secret. Saxon laborers packed the soil with crushed oyster shells. Prevents flooding and allegedly muffles the screams of trespassers. Quaint, you pause. Was that? No, just a barn owl's screech. Or a barn owl's distant cousin screaming into a woolen sock. Hard to tell. The mist thickens. Your lantern now carves a 3-foot bubble of sanity. Everything else, a Rorschach test in vapor. Ahead something glints. You crouch. A coin. Nope. Just a beetle's iridescent shell catch and release kaleidoscope. Saxon kids used these as trading tokens. 10 beetles equals 1 slightly less moldy turnip. The early days of capitalism, folks. The path steepens. Your breath fogs the air, each exhale a fleeting ghost. Your thumb brushes the lantern's handle, warm brass against skin. 5 generations of manor lords gripped this same metal. Their fingerprints linger. Or maybe that's just tarnish. Sudden cold, your nape hairs rise. You whirl. Lantern light flares. Just a birch sapling, its white bark peeling like sunburned skin. Relax, or don't. That sapling wasn't there 10 seconds ago. Ahead, the cobblestones end. Dirt now lumpy and suspicious. Your boot sinks slightly. Archaeologists found a whole family of field mice mummified in soil like this. Perfectly preserved, right down to their tiny, judgmental faces. The wind dies. Absolute silence, the kind that hums in your molars. Then a creak, not the gate, higher. You look up. An apple dangles by a thread of bark, swaying. Plump, tempting. Don't. Saxon orchard tailies warn of fruits that bleed when plucked. But hey, free snack. You press on. The lantern's light catches a waist-high shape, a stone trough choked with dead leaves. Horses drank here. Probably. Unless it was a baptismal font for bite-sized pagan gods. Open debate, folks. Something crunches underfoot. You wince, lift your boot. A walnut shell. Then another. And another, a trail leading into the gloom. Follow the walnut shells, Saxon version of breadcrumbs. Just pray you don't meet the squirrel Hansel. Your elbow brushes a branch, brittle twigs claw at your sleeve. You freeze. Spiderweb threads glint, a medieval security system. Wipe that silk off your face. It's fine. Totally. Spiders here are the size of thumbs with thumbs. Probably. The path kinks sharply. What's around the bend? Your lantern won't say. It's busy fighting the dark. Fine, you inch forward. 1 step. 2. Peel the night like a bruise. Their movement. A shadow detaches from a tree no taller than your hip. It tilts its head. Your throat tightens until moonlight reveals a stone gnome. Not Saxon. Probably a Victorian prank. Its mossy smirk says, bet you peed a little. You exhale. Laughter bubbles up, nervous, but real. The orchard approves. Wind stirs again, leaves applaud. Ahead, the path straightens. Your lantern flares, gold light spills over a low wall. The orchard's heart lies beyond. But that's a tale for another night. For now, you're here, alive, mostly. And the gate's creak is just a memory, drowned by the wind's whispered secrets. The iron gate winds shut behind you, its echo swallowed by the mist. Ahead stretches a corridor of gnarled apple trees, skeletal fingers clawing at the bruised purple sky. Your lantern paints their bark gold, revealing scars where centuries of initials carved love or warnings. Cobblestones vanish under ankle-high grass, each blade glazed with dew that catches the light. Remember those Saxon ciders you tried at the fair? This orchard's ancestors fueled those drinks. They pressed apples into tart brew within days of harvest. No patience for sweet nibbling. A branch taps your shoulder. You nearly drop the lantern. Easy, knight errant, you mutter, heart pounding. Ancient folk slipped apple pips under their tongues during moon rituals, believing sprouts would reveal a lover's name. Tonight, you keep your mouth shut. The wind shifts, petals spiral down like confetti at a ghostly wedding. 17 steps in, the path splits. Left, a thicket snarled with brambles. Right, more trees, but their blossoms glow faintly blue. Historians still argue whether these orchards doubled as sacred groves or just really productive juice factories. You choose right. The air thickens sweet rot and honey wrestling your nostrils. Lantern light bounces off something lodged in a trunk, a rusted iron arrowhead. 10th century, if you had to guess. The trees were likely saplings when some Dane fired that shot. Something crunches underfoot. You lift your boot, a ceramic shard, its glaze still pearlescent, probably from a storage jar. Saxon potters added crushed shells to their clay, gritty innovation or happy accident. The shard goes into your pocket, souvenir or cursed artifact. Toss up, a thorn nicks your wrist, 3 beads of blood well up. Charging admission now, you ask the orchard. No answer, just a chorus of rustling leaves. Botanists found cider residues in 1,200-year-old dental plaque, proof even dentists can't kill joy. The lantern flickers. You cup the flame, your shadow swells into a giant on the trunk ahead. For a heartbeat, the tree's knots look like faces, wide-eyed, mouths open mid-chant. Blink, and they're just wood again. Saxons called apples Earth's nectar. A title stolen by mead snobs later. Ahead, a low wall of stacked stones interrupts the trees, moss spilling over its edges like melted emeralds. Your light skims the surface, revealing carvings too weathered to read. Sun symbols, boundary markers, bad graffiti. The debate's been deadlocked since the Victoria and Albert Museums' 1987 gala. You press on. The canopy tightens, branches knitting a vaulted ceiling. Lantern light dances across a spiderweb strung between 2 boughs, its silk threads quivering, though the air's still. 8 pearly dewdrops balance along the strands, nature's abacus, counting your trespasses. Ahead, a single tree stands apart, its trunk split down the middle. Fire, lightning, Saxon drama. You lean closer and freeze. Buried in the fissure, a child's leather shoe, tiny, crumbling. Chickadees have nested inside it, their downy feathers poking through the seams. The wind rises, a gust snuffs your lantern. Darkness floods in, but only for a heartbeat. Above, the blossoms blaze like neon stars, bioluminescence, or cider-induced hallucination. Your thumb finds the flint striker, but why rush? Let the orchard have its light show. When you finally spark the wick, the path has shifted. A new fork, 3 options now. Central slope climbs steeply, stones slick with lichen. Blossoms swirl downward, pooling around your boots, each petal edged in frost. Somewhere ahead, water trickles, a liquid whisper threading through the dark. The central path pulls you forward, stones slick underfoot like greased pigskin at a county fair. Each slab wears a mossy cape, edges softened by centuries of rainfall. Dew soaks through your boots because Saxon-era trails never heard of waterproofing. Your lantern reveals lichen maps on the rocks, fractal continents in shades of acid green. Historians still argue whether these paths follow Roman roads or just Viking shortcuts to the nearest pub. Either way, your socks are paying the price. The trickle grows louder, a liquid whisper threading through ferns. You spot the source, a stone trough fed by a spring. Iron-rich water stains the basin crimson. Saxon-era Red Bull, you murmur. They prized these springs, believed the rust, hue strengthened warriors. Modern tests found 0 actual iron. Placebo effect strikes again. A frog plops into the water. Its splash echoes weirdly. Acoustic trick of the trough. Experimental archaeologists recreated these basins last year. Acoustics amplified whispers by 30%. Secret meeting spots or ancient drive-thrus for gossip. Mist curls off the water, phantom fingers brushing your neck. You shiver, then nearly trip on a half-buried stone. Carvings peek through moss, a spiral maybe. Local lore claims farmers stacked elf stones here to ward off spirits. Last winter's scan revealed 0 carvings. Overactive imaginations. 1. Archaeology. 0. The path narrows, stones squeezing your boots like a grudging handshake. Brambles clutch at your coat, trading threads for passage. 1 snags your sleeve, revealing a glint beneath thorns. A horse brass. 2 corroded to tell. Saxon steeds wore these amulets. Metal allergies be damned. Wind riffles the grass, a sound like pages turning. Your lantern gutters, then steadies. 3 fat slugs ooze across the next stone. Their slime trails shimmer like disco glitter. Save it for the rave, you tell them. They ignore you. Basic invertebrates. Ahead lies a stone archway crumbling, but defiant. Ivy binds its joints like nature's duct tape. You duck through and inhale sharply. The orchard opens into a circular clearing, 32 stones forming a jagged crown. Moonlight bleaches their surfaces, bone white. Boots scuffing, you circle the perimeter. Each stone leans drunkenly, time's knocked them sideways. Someone piled flint nodules at the base of the tallest, recent offerings. Teens, druid cosplayers, the podcast Spooky Past did an episode here last Halloween. Ratings tanked when their EMF reader died. Your toe kicks something, a clay pipe stem, bowl long shattered. Tudor era, if the shape's right. Workers napped here during orchard repairs, smoking smuggled tobacco. Church records show 3 fines for devil's breath usage in 1612. Priorities, reverend priorities. The spring's song fades, replaced by a new sound. Dripping, steady, metallic. You follow it to the clearing's edge and freeze. A rusted chain dangles from an oak limb, its links weeping orange tears onto a flat stone. The puddle beneath gleams like liquid amber. Nope, you announce, backpedaling into a spiderweb. Silk clings to your eyelashes, the 8-legged architect already fleeing. 9th century sagas mention chain-bound spirits guarding treasure. Your treasure, dry socks, still MIA, retracing steps. You spot carvings on the archway's inner face, hidden unless exiting. A serpent eating its tail, or a badly drawn donut. Runes flank it, their meanings debated since 1843. That year, a vicar transcribed them, then burned his notes screaming about ungodly truths. Drama queen, moonlight shifts, the stone's shadows stitched together into a leviathan shape. You blink, it's gone. Saxon's buried chiefs with stone markers facing sunrise. This circle faces northwest. Wrong direction, or a middle finger to tradition. The lantern dims, oil running low. You turn back toward the main path and pause. A new noise underfoot crunching. Not leaves, not ice. Kneeling, you brush aside mulch, revealing a mosaic of snail shells. Hundreds. Art or accident, a 1992 thesis, argued their Saxon calculators. Peer reviews were unkind. Wind gusts. The chain clanks like a faulty elevator. You pocket a shell fragment. For the haters, you tell the clearing. At the archway, a final glance back. The stones seem closer now. Sleep deprivation or sentient lithics, only your damp socks know. The main path reappears faithful as a jet-lagged spaniel. Lichen glows chartreuse in your fading light. Somewhere ahead, an owl hoots. Its call syncs with the dripping chain, a discordant duet. Your boot dislodges a stone. It rolls downhill, sparking flinty protests. 3 twists later, the water's whisper returns louder now. The path descends into a gully where a creek licks smooth stones. Perfect skipping rocks. You test one. It bounces twice before plopping into darkness. 1700 years ago, kids did the same. Archaeological layers don't lie. The opposite bank's steep, crumbling sandstone promising mudslides. You hesitate, but a flat rock mid-creek glints invitingly. Stepping stone or trap, a mosaic maps your route. The mosaic shivers underfoot, water sluicing through its jigsaw gaps. You leap to the far bank and nearly headbutt the yew. It's less tree than disgraced cathedral, trunk split wide like a frozen scream. Moonlight cakes its hollows in blue-white frosting, but the heartwood's gone. Rot or relic hunters, Saxon law decreed you sacred. Chopping one meant a fine of 12 cows. Try explaining that to a modern arborist. Moths swarm the cavity. Their wings lick your face with electrostatic kisses. You swat, and a cloud rises like ash. York Museum keeps a 1,200-year-old yew seed found wedged in a skull's eye socket. Exhibit label says ritual object. You say botanical prank gone wrong. The trunk's ribs press outward, splaying like frost cracks in mud. Historians still argue whether these trees marked burial sites or just really committed topiary. Your lantern grazes the bark. The beam dies mid-swipe. Darkness pools, then retreats with a sheepish flicker. Drama queen, you mutter. Squatting, you sift leaf litter, unearthing a nail-studded plank. 9th century coffin chunk. modern stage prop. One academic insists medieval actors performed morality plays under this yew. His proof, a 1993 stain shaped like Punch's hat. Wind rasps through dead branches, a sound like wet bone dragged across slate. The moths spiral tighter, forming a living halo around the hollow. You edge backward, heel crunching on something brittle. A jawbone, no, just a snapped hazel rod. Hazel divining rods, or Saxon era kindling. Depends who's selling the souvenir guidebook. Rot seeps into your sinuses sweet and meaty. The tree's roots writhe above ground, tripping you into a sapling's embrace. Its leaves prickle your neck, Hollywood's idea of cozy. You peel free, noting scratch marks on the bark, boar tusks, belt buckles. That 2008 dendrochronology study found blade marks from 3 eras. Everyone wanted a piece. A moth lands on your wrist, its wings iridescent as oil slicks. You blow gently, it clings like stubborn lint. Yew pollen once flavored Tudor-era ale, a toxic buzz for brave drinkers. This one's ancestors probably partied hard. The hollow gapes, blacker than the gaps between stars. A cold draft whispers out, it smells of loam and iron. Saxon poems describe yews as doorposts to the underworld. Right now, you'd settle for a door to a heated pub, stumbling away. Your foot snags a root. The ground gives, revealing a child-sized pit lined with oyster shells. Feast remnant. Playpen. Excavators found 32 such pits here, each holding a single dog tooth. Peer-reviewed theories include ritual offerings, Saxon chew toys, interdental floss storage. Academia's wild. Moonlight stretches the yew's shadow, twisting it into a many-limbed giant. You check the time, phone dead, since that weird electromagnetic pulse at the chain. Coincidence. The tree's sap contains voltage-gated ion channels. Not a joke, actual botany. Nature's circuitry. The lantern sputters, oil reserves critical. You pivot toward the path and freeze. Something glows in the hollow, pale green and oblong. Foxfire fungus. Buried lead. You lean closer, it winks out. Last summer's interns swore this tree emitted Morse code. Their final report. Inconclusive, but kinda sus. Retrieving your bag. You brush off centipedes, their legs tickle like eyelashes. One falls into your water bottle. Instant caffeinated nightmare fuel. The yew creaks, a splintering groan from roots to crown. You half expect a bass drop. Shadows congeal around the trunk, forming shapes that might be faces. Might be pareidolia. Might be time to leave. Churchwarden records from 1432 mention a spiritu that swallowed a priest. They excommunicated the tree, then charged it a tithe. Lantern dying, you retreat downslope. Behind you, the moths surge a spectral wake. Your pocket jingles, the hazel rod and dog tooth clinking like loose change. Tomorrow's problem. The creek reappears, its chatter soothingly mundane. You dunk your burning face, yew pollen stinging your nostrils. Emerge gasping, to see the moon caught in spider silk above, divine net, or nature's flypaper. Stone steps materialize, mossy and treacherous. Saxon builders sloped them westward, perfect for rolling barrels downhill. Too bad your boots prefer uphill battles. A slug oozes across the third step, spelling SOS in slime, performance art, or desperate gastropod. At the top, a scrap of velvet flutters, blood red against gray rock. Tudor-era garment, or Glastonbury festival fallout. Either way, it makes a decent handkerchief. Blotting your forehead, you spot fireflies ahead. Or are they cat eyes? The ew's final gift. Pollen-induced sneezes that echo like gunshots. Owls take flight, their wing beats applauding your exit. Somewhere behind the tree exhales sentiment or septic decay. Stick with quirky ambience for TripAdvisor. Dawn bleeds through distant oaks, but here night clings like a jealous lover. You forge onward, pocketed relics clacking a counter-rhythm to your steps. The ew's shadow stretches impossibly long until the path bends and snaps it clean. The well's rim bites into your palms, rough limestone worn smooth by desperate grips. Your lantern dangles. Its light licks moss-stained bricks, descending into black. Saxon wells ran deep some tapped aquifers, older than their gods. This one exhales, a dank breath that wrinkles your nose. A pebble knocks loose. It plummets, click, click, clicks, like a broken clock. You count 30 heartbeats before the splash. 13th century tax records mention a cursed well that devoured 2 pigs and a tax collector. Coincidence or porcine rebellion? Leaning closer, your reflection wavers, eyes too wide, hair wind scrambled. Surface water mirrors were forbidden in some Saxon villages. They believed ripples invited drowned souls. Modern solution: selfie sticks. Evolution, baby. Something glints below, a coin's edge catching the light. Edwardian penny or Roman denarius. Drain the Thames, and you'll find both in the same sludge. Archaeologists once pulled a rubber duck from a well near York. Tudor ghosts perplexed. Scientists even more so. Wind funnels down the shaft. A low hum vibrates your molars. Historians still argue whether these sounds came from water or hidden druid singing chambers. The 1997 well karaoke hypothesis was tragically defunded. You scrape crusted mud off the pulley, rust flakes, snowing into the dark. Saxon engineers used ox gut for ropes, which explains the surplus of confused livestock. Your modern nylon cord feels judgy by comparison. A spider scuttles over your boot, its leg span rivaling a child's hand. You freeze, it waves forelegs like a tiny traffic cop. Medieval texts called cellar spiders, well weavers. Their webs supposedly predicted water levels. This one's masterpiece says, abandon hope, the hum crescendos, now a bassoon's mournful note. Your ribs tremble, keys in your pocket jingle, and a rhythmic counterpoint. 7th century laws find anyone who hummed near communal wells. Vibration pollution. ancient edition. You chuck a hazelnut, it vanishes into the groan. 5 seconds pass. Then a wet crunch echoes upward. Could be groundwater, could be something catching its snack. A 2003 sonar scan found a deer skeleton wedged sideways in a Sussex well. Cause of death: vertical entrapment, bureaucrat for really bad day. Moss squelches under your knees, your nose to stone with the abyss. Cold air braids around your throat, carrying whispers that might be Old English, might be tinnitus. A 10th century love poem etched into a well wall reads, "Your eyes are deeper than this pit, yet drier." Saxon roasts hit different, the lantern gutters. Shadows leap like startled cats. Your pulse thuds in your ears, syncopated with drips from below. Workers restoring Norwich cathedrals, well found 17 dice at the bottom. Loaded or lucky, academia demands a peer-reviewed game night. Something skitters up the bricks, claws on stone, faster than rats. You jerk back, elbow smacking the pulley. A bat bursts forth, wings grazing your scalp. Its screech dopplering into the night. Tudor physicians prescribed bat ashes for well sickness. Side effects included, well, more bats. The coin winks again, taunting from 30 feet down. You mentally catalog your pockets. Lint, a fossilized gum wrapper dignity. Fishing line. The well's sigh deepens, a bored librarian silencing chatter. Fine, keep your treasure whole. Standing, you brush off peat, each particle a miniature meteor in the lantern's beam. Saxon moms tossed barley cakes into wells to appease spirits. You sacrifice a granola bar. It plops like a sarcastic punchline. Retreating, you notice carvings on the limestone, crude faces eroded to ghouls. One sports a triangle hat. Another's tongue lolls sideways. Kids, graffiti, or warnings from the half-mad. A 14th century scribe described well imps with faces like melted candles. Unionized troublemakers. The hum fades, replaced by wind combing through distant oaks. Your souls remember the damp squelching with each step away. Victorian thrill-seekers held seances at this well in 1893. Their final diary entry: raised nothing but damp. Lantern light bounces off a puddle, ripples morph into runic shapes. Pareidolias, a hell of a drug. You kick the water, scattering the illusion. Saxon or not, every culture's had that one guy who saw faces in toast. The path curls westward, a badger shambles across it, pelt glazed with moonlight. It pauses, sniffing your well-scented boots with judicial disdain. Wildlife critiques, 0 stars. Behind you, the well's mouth shrinks to a yellow smudge. Your pockets heavier. When did you pick up that limestone chip? Gilt trophy, or pet rock with baggage? The well's whisper follows, a fading breath down your collar. Just the wind, just the night, just the lies you'll tell yourself come dawn. Moonlight pools where the badger crossed, your boots sink into leaf mulch that smells of forgotten compost. The orchard tightens here, branches knitting a skeletal canopy overhead. Saxon nobles prized apple groves, their cider taxed higher than wheat. This one's gone feral, gnarled limbs, sprouting crab apples, no bigger than thumbtacks. A shadow flickers, a stooped back, retreating behind an elder tree. You freeze, but only wind stirs the hedgerow. Anglo-Saxon gardens mixed herbs with roses, parsley for hunger, basil for madness. This gardener seems to specialize in hauntings, your lantern gutters, throwing jagged shapes across the path. There again, bent shoulders, hands cradling something. Not shears the glints wrong. Too blunt, too bony. A 9th century soil sieve found in Essex had human finger bones for handles. Improv tools, or dark humor, the figure dissolves, moonbeams stitch through where it stood. You pocket a fallen apple, pocked by insects, warm as a dying ember. Historians still argue whether Saxon green men were myth or just really committed landscapers. The debate rages on, mostly in German pubs. Moss muffles your steps as you circle the elder. A scent hits rosemary and iron, buried tools, rotting shears. Your light skitters over roots, catches a stone trough half swallowed by ivy. Slivers of oyster shells glint inside, crushed for Saxon concrete. Romans used volcanic ash. Budget cuts hit hard post-empire. Something snips the air, your neck prickles. No blades in sight, just a magpie watching from a branch. It caws a sound like scissors opening. Medieval bird debaters claimed magpies mimicked garden shears to mock lazy groundskeepers. Ornithologists roll their eyes. But you check your hair, just in case. The shadow materializes ahead, kneeling now, gloves brushing soil. Except gloves would imply hands. These are smoke-thin, blurring at the edges. A 2012 thermal scan at Sutton who found cold patches shaped like crouching figures, equipment glitch, or union breaks for the undead. Wind swirls, dead leaves rise into a miniature tornado. For a heartbeat, the figure solidifies. Patched tunic, straw hat blooming with fungi. Then gone. Your lantern's oil sloshes, nervous as your pulse. Fungus-based textiles were experimental in late Saxon England. Results: itchy and slightly sentient. You kick a pebble, it sails through where the knees should be. Tink hits a buried pot. Kneel, scrape dirt, reveal a ceramic spout. Roman era watering can. Carbon dating says 12th century. Conclusion: everyone copied everyone. Originalities, a modern obsession. The magpie dive bombs your head. Wings buffet your ears as you duck. Critic, you mutter. 9th century laws find tenants for bird offenses against lords. No loopholes for avian assassins. When you stand, the gardener's inches away, back still turned, neck cricked at an owl's angle. Moss creeps up their leggings, or are those roots? Your breath fogs the air between you. Saxon peasants buried tools at property lines to ward off thieves. Smart, unless the shovel digs itself up. You reach out, a gale explodes from nowhere. The figure unravels into dandelion fluff and November chill. Your hand closes on empty air, palm slick with sudden dew. Archaeologists found a Saxon skeleton in Dorset clutching a willow rake, roots growing through its ribs. Retirement plan or botanical possession. The lantern dims, you thumb the flame higher. Something glimmers at your feet, a single gooseberry, impossibly plump in mid-autumn. Bite it, risk tart oblivion. Pocket it, freeze your hip. You leave it a gift for the next fool. Moonlight bleaches the path ahead, but the orchard feels lighter now, less coiled. Behind you, leaves rustle without wind. Maybe the gardener's pruning again. Maybe the breeze just hates symmetry. Either way, the rosemary scent lingers, a green thread through the dark. Moonlight bleaches the path ahead. Your shadow stretches thin as parchment over gnarled roots. The rosemary scent fades, replaced by damp bark, and a musk like wet wool forgotten in a trunk. Ahead looms an oak, its trunk wide enough to hide a horse. Saxon builders used living trees as support beams. Entire halls grew around steadfast oaks. This one's hollowed by time, a cave draped in lichen beards. Two amber eyes ignite in the darkness. Your breath hitches. The owl doesn't blink, just pivots its head with mechanic precision. 9th century burial mounds near York held owl talons clasped in skeletal hands, trophies or sacred trinkets. No one asked the owls. The bird hoots, a bass note that hums in your molars. Historians still argue whether Saxons saw owls as wisdom keepers or feathery grim reapers. Consensus depended on the owl's mood. You edge closer, boots crunching acorn caps. The hollow exhales air colder than the night. It smells of iron and turned earth. Moss squelches under your palm as you brace against the trunk. Something clinks. Your lantern light glints on bronze nestled in the roots. A child's bell, green with patina. Saxon parents tied these to cribs to scare off Jenga night walkers. Works on toddlers, less on actual demons. The owl's talons flex, splintering wood. Its feathers rustle like parchment scrolls. A white droplet plops onto your sleeve. Charming, you mutter. Anglo-Saxons believed bird droppings carried prophecies. This one's message: bring an umbrella. Wind snakes through the hollow. The owl's pupils shrink to pinpricks. It thrusts wings wide, spanning the width of a chariot. For a heartbeat, your eitwy. Then it launches. Air slaps your face as it vanishes into the canopy. A single feather drifts down barred with patterns like runic script. You pocket it, a souvenir for your future therapist. The tree groans, a creak deeper than its trunk should allow. Press your ear to the bark, faint knocking answers. Woodworms, or the fabled tuyor, Saxon dwarves hammering jeweled chains in root chambers. A 1980s hoaxer planted clockwork beetles here, still ticking somewhere under your feet. Moonlight shifts, exposing carvings on the hollow's inner wall. Serpents entwine axes, a king's crown sprouting branches. Your thumb traces the grooves, gritty with age. Touch a cluster of Nordic runes, and the wind gusts, snuffing your lantern. Darkness swallows you, but the owl's eyes reignite, now twin flames in the black. Its beak parts, a hiss like steam escaping a burial urn. Back away slowly, 3 paces, 4. The eyes dim, replaced by fireflies swirling in mockery. Dawn's first blush stains the east. The oak's shadow retreats into itself. Your lantern flickers back to life, pathetic as a birthday candle. Beneath the hollow, a cracked clay bowl holds rodent bones and a thimble. Saxon or Victorian, hard to tell, times a teeth-chattering parrot, stealing shiny moments. The feather in your pocket grows heavy. You have expected to whisper, but some mysteries nap better unpoked. Northward, the path curves past brambles jeweled with dew, the owl's final cry echoing in your wake. It sounds like laughter, or maybe indigestion. Nature's a terrible comedian either way. Thorned fingers snag your sleeve as you pass. The hawthorn hedge leans hungrily over the path. Your lantern gutters, casting jittery silhouettes that skitter across the brambles. One shadow stretches long ears twitching upward in a perfect hair shape. Saxons planted these hedges to corral sheep, though rumor claims they really kept out wolves and things without proper names. A twig snaps underfoot, the sound echoes wrong. Too crisp, too deliberate. You freeze, half expecting a prankster sprite. Instead, moth wings brush your neck, trailing the scent of fermenting apples. Medieval peasants brewed hawthorn wine for May Day, then promptly forgot where they buried the jugs. Some still bubble quietly under these roots, waiting to bless or blight the next thirsty fool. The hair shadow bolts left its form, shattering into a dozen smaller shapes. Hedgehogs, rats, your light refuses to confirm. Something thrums beneath your boots, a vibration like distant war drums. Historians still argue whether Saxon boundary hedges marked property lines or spiritual thresholds. The debate grows academic as a thorn pierces your thumb. Chiggers, you grumble, dabbing blood on your sleeve. 10th century healers used hawthorn to treat wounds. Hope they washed the leaves first. Leathery leaves whisper above, each serrated edge catching moonlight. You crouch to inspect the path and freeze. Crude carvings adorn the stones, stick-figure warriors battling creatures with too many limbs. One resembles your Aunt Margaret after double espresso. The lantern trembles in your grip, its light swaying like a drunkard. Shadows leap, reforming as a hound-shaped blotch that paces your steps. Your boots crunch rhythmically until you realize the crunching continues after you stop. Ahead looms the hedge's heart, a gnarled archway of interlocked branches. Moss drapes its curves, nature's velvet ropes. Saxon councils met at such spots, dispensing justice under holy thorns. Or was that just an excuse to avoid damp meeting halls? The arch creaks, exhaling air that reeks of sodden wheat and burnt honey. You step through, thorns grazing your scalp like a grudging coronation. The temperature drops, your breath fogs the lantern glass. Behind you, The archway shrinks, claim denied. Ancient roots crack stone slabs here their bulges, forming steps down into deeper darkness. Nope, you announce, the word hanging crystalline in the air. Experts found rusted sickles in similar thickets, pruned by hands zealous enough to bend the blades. The hair shadow reappears, dancing across a wall of briars. It pauses, standing upright like a furry little usher. Saxons called hares hasu, creatures able to hop between worlds. Doesn't explain why this one's waving. You toss a pebble at it. The shadow disintegrates, then reforms, making rude gestures. Classy, you mutter. A thorny tendril flicks your ankle, apology or provocation. Light glints ahead, not your lanterns. Tiny starry points blink in the underbrush. You kneel, revealing a mosaic of crushed snail shells. Someone arranged them into spiral patterns, now guarded by armored slugs. 9th century love charms used snail slime, a fact that explains population declines. The slugs glisten resentfully as you retreat. Wind slices through the hedge, its gust bearing a child's giggle. The lantern flares, momentarily etching your shadow onto the thorns. For a heartbeat, your silhouette wears antlers. The giggle fades into a wet sniffle, directionless. Saxon parents warned children about hitless feminine, smiling girls who led wayfarers into bramble tombs. You pick up the pace. Ahead, the path splits. Left fork slopes downward, right ascends into mist. Straight ahead, a solid wall of hawthorn. 3 young trees sprout from the center, their trunks spiraled like barley sugar sticks. Genetic fluke, or medieval topiary gone feral. Your lantern chooses that moment to dim, wicks drowning in wax. The right path glows faintly moonlight on dewy cobbles. The hair shadow materializes at the ascent, bobbing impatiently. Fine, you sigh, ignoring how the mist parts like theater curtains. Each step upward grinds gravel until the stones smooth into worn chalk. Roman road, Saxon imitation, both empires loved a good shortcut. Hawthorn berries litter the trail, slimy red pellets that pop underfoot. Field guides call them edible. Taste buds call them liars. At the crest, the hedge unravels, revealing a moonlit clearing. Your shadow stretches west, while the hare's points north. The lantern steadies its flame, stretching tall as a guardsman. Beneath your boots, the chalk emits faint warmth. Or maybe that's just bundled nerves. Saxon roads rarely led where you hoped, but always where you needed. Tonight's destination remains delightfully unclear. The last thorn plinks off your boot heel, a parting gift. You nod farewell, unsure which of you retreats. Rotting beams claw at the sky, 37 seasons of rain, warping what fire spared. The mead hall's skeleton hunches before you, its thatch long gone. Ribs open to the stars. Your lantern light licks charred posts, revealing serpent carvings swallowed by fungus. Saxon nobles traded Baltic amber, here paid warriors in honeyed liquor, until they forgot whose land they'd seized. Wind whistles through nail holes. a tune that almost resembles laughter. You tow a shattered cup, its pewter split like dry lips. Half expecting spectral waiters, you mutter diet mead to the shadows. The joke dies midair. Frogs croak in the hall's collapsed cellar, their chorus echoing off mossy flagstones. Medieval cooks stewed those same amphibians for pies, a fact better left forgotten. A moth alights on your wrist, its wings the exact gray of tarnished cutlery. 3 hearthstones form a lopsided triangle, their mortar replaced by dandelion roots. Archaeologists found henbane seeds in similar ruins, perfect for visions or projectile vomiting. You step over a collapsed bench, legs still carved with boar heads. Their tusks gleam unnaturally beetles. You realize hundreds scuttling in carved grooves. One scurries backward like a tiny retreating army. The wind shifts, carrying a whiff of roasting venison. Your stomach growls, then tightens. That scent shouldn't linger after 8 centuries. Saxons believed abandoned halls housed dwergas, spirits who reenacted feasts until dawn. For once, academia and folklore agree. Don't accept their wine. A clay shard crunches underfoot, edges too sharp for something so old. Moonlight floods through the eastern gap, illuminating claw marks on an oak post. Too high for wolves, too deep for blades. Historians still argue whether this hall burned in Viking raids or a thane's jealous brother. You trace the gouges, splinters biting your fingertips. Frost suddenly rimes the wood, but your breath isn't that cold. A stone column leans precariously, its base tangled in wild grapevines. You press an ear to the cool surface and jerk back. Metal reverberates inside, a sword's ghostly clang trapped in rock. 7th century smiths buried tongs and hammers under support beams, sacrifices to forgotten forge gods. This pillar seems displeased. Something hoots above, an owl perched on the hall's last intact crossbeam. It drops a feather, perfectly aimed for your hair. Saxons saw owls as ancestors' messengers. This one's probably critiquing your posture. The bird swivels its head, amber eyes reflecting your lantern tenfold. You count 11 flames, then 12, but blink before confirming. Dew seeps through your boots as you circle the central pit. Charcoal chunks nestle in ashy mud, the long-dead fire still radiating a mockery of warmth. Scholars found hallucinogenic herbs in Hoxne's hearth remains, some recipes strong enough to make walls breathe. You resist the urge to lick the sediment. A child's footprint fossilizes in the mud, its edges blurred by centuries. Too small for labor, too deep for play. Your light quivers. 3rd century Britons cast bronze toys here, tiny swords and chariots melted down when Rome demanded taxes. That footprint might have outlasted emperors. The owl shrieks, a sound like bending nails. You pivot, spotting clawed tracks in the frost. Not avian, not quite canine. They spiral around the hearth, pressing harder with each circuit. 9th century law codes mention bear dogs guarding abandoned sites. But let's assume taxidermy wasn't involved. The tracks end abruptly at a patch of clover, nature's shrug. Moss creeps up your ankle, vines coiling like hesitant lovers. You shake free, boots squelching. Rain barrels rotted centuries ago, yet a metallic tang hangs where they stood. Smiths, ghosts sharpening blades, rust seeping from buried nails. The hall withholds its secrets, offering only a cricket's chirp from the rafters. A spiderweb glistens between two posts, strands taut as lute strings. Pluck one, and the vibration becomes a war chant. Or tinnitus. Either way, you're not the first to hear it. Saxon poets sang of webs predicting battles, though none mentioned arachnid copyright fees. The owl flees, wingspan momentarily blotting out the moon. In that darkness, the hall breathes, rotted wood creaking like arthritic lungs. A pewter spoon winks from the soil-tarnished handle, engraved with interlocked serpents. You pocket it, because history loves a polite thief. Distant thunder mimics drums, a rhythm the ground answers. Your lantern gutters, but steadies as you retreat toward intact timbers. Archaeologists once found a skeleton here gripping a cup, jaw unhinged mid-laugh. Natural causes, insisted the report. The wind disagrees, whistling through the dead man's teeth. You exit through the hall's gaping doorway, iron hinges melted into puddles long ago. The owl's feather slips from your hair, floating north toward older shadows. Mead halls anchored Saxon kingdoms until ale ran out and lords forgot their own ballads. Rod, it seems, remembers every verse. Moonlight silverizes the creek's skin, a liquid ribbon coiling through stones older than castles. Your boots sink into silt, cold seeping through leather to tattoo Roman roads onto your soles. Saxon fishermen called this fleot, a tidal trickster whose moods dictated herring hauls and hunger winters. Lean closer, the water mirrors your face, then fractures into a dozen strangers. A woman's brow furrowed by looms, a child's grin missing 2 teeth. Historians still argue whether creek patterns guided night travelers or just reflected too much elderberry wine. You crouch, fingertips skimming a stone veined like dragonhide. 9th century millers prized these for grinding rye, each groove a fossilized storm. Tonight, they hum against your palm, as if vibrating with downstream gossip. A minnow darts between your shadow's fingers, its scales catching the lantern's flame. Nice bling, you murmur. It flicks away, unimpressed. The water whispers secrets in a language of pebbles. 3 rapid clinks left, right, straight ahead. Saxon wives, red streams like tea leaves, tossing hawthorn twigs to decode adultery or axe murders. You snap a blackberry cane, aim for a eddy. The current drags it under, then spits it back, snapped clean. Points for drama. Kneeling, you spot a half-buried comb, its teeth choked by algae. 7th century hairdressers buried these to ward off head lice and husbands. The wood's still sturdy, carved with interlocking hairs. Your nail catches a glyph between their ears. Victory rune, fertility symbol. or some bored carver's doodle. The creek gurgles, a wet chuckle. Ripples reshape your reflection into a man's face, hollow cheeks, a nose broken in 3 places. He mouths words lost to bubbles. You jerk back, boot heel, dislodging a brick-sized stone. Beneath it, a coin glints. Edward, the confessor's weary profile eaten by verdigris. Finders keepers, you tell the water. It answers with a splash against your knee. Wading upstream, you stumble on a submerged step, mossy and deliberate. A ford from when this creek was a border or a baptism site. Your light skitters over the far bank, catching twin depressions in the mud. Knee prints, recent, too small for livestock, too deep for a child's play. The wind dies, leaving the creek's mutters unnervingly clear. Click-clack, a sound like knuckle bones in a cup. Saxons used sheep ankle bones as dice, though none admit they loaded them. You freeze as something round bobs into view, a wrinkled apple, its skin mummified by tannins. It spins lazily, a poisoned snack from a long-dead suitor. 5 stones form a crude arrow upstream, their algae streaked like war paint. Follow them, or don't. Archaeologists found similar markers near Repton, leading to mass graves or mead stashes. Your lantern jitters as you step over the constellation-patterned rocks. The Doomsday Book omitted this place, too stubborn to be mapped or tamed. Mid-channel, the water thickens, blackened by walnut husks dumped centuries ago. Tanner's legacy, or a natural ink pot for some monastic scribes, illicit love letters. You gag rot and iron invading your sinuses. 3 eels writhe past, their bodies spelling runes only Pike can read. A lopsided cairn balances on the eastern bank, chalk pebbles stacked by a perfectionist with bad depth perception. Toss one into the current, and the creek stills. Just for a heartbeat, city planners once diverted this stream to power a furnace, till accidents bankrupted them. The water's passive-aggressive like that. Your sleeve brushes a dangling branch, its twigs encased in glassy ice. Not frozen, fused. Lightning strike. Blast from an overambitious blacksmith. The bark shivers under your touch, zinc aftertaste blooming on your tongue. 7th century metallurgists worshipped Sucellus. But even he'd nope out of this. 2 stones clack together underwater, a glacial pace. You squint. Pebbles inch westward like sleepwalking tortoises. The creek bed's alive, or drunk. Geologists say shifting aquifers walk river stones, but you're pretty sure that's not a diploma-certified fact. A frog plops into the shallows, shattering your reflection into 1,000 kings. Their crowns are lichen, their scepters reed stalks. Legend says Serdic's bastard son drowned here rose as a pike with a taste for earlobes. You check your ears, all present. The lantern flares its light, catching a notch in the bedrock. Carved letters. Letter 16 CF, letter 16 A9, letter 16 B9. Ta. An olden warning, or a stonemason's initial. The mark aligns with Polaris. If stars cared about markup languages, Your breath fogs the stone. When it clears, the letter 16CF is now letter 16A6. Thorn, symbol of giants, and no, time to go. Water sluices over your boots as you retreat, stones rolling like disapproving tongues. The creek's voice climbs an octave, almost melodic, almost familiar. They say Alfred the Great hid here as a boy scribbling psalms between Viking patrols. Tonight, the water remembers his ink-stained fingers. Yours, though prune-wrinkled and shaking, grip the lantern tighter. One final glance back. Your discarded apple core floats midstream, surrounded by 9 concentric ripples. A tally, a countdown, or just carp with gas. The creek offers no epiphanies, only the smug lap of water on stone. You leave it humming a lullaby you've never heard. Yet no by marrow. The lantern's warmth abandons you here, frost devouring its halo. Blackberry thorns wear ice like 80s hairbands, all spiked collars and zero self-awareness. You exhale, your breath hangs midair, a ghostly comma in winter's opening sentence. Saxon peasants timed first frosts using bramble veins, each crystalline web predicting hunger or plenty. Your nail taps a thorn. It sings, high and brittle, a note that pricks your earlobes with déjà vu. Rusted wire loops through the thicket, knots frayed by a century of sneaking deer. One strand sports icicles, tiny glass daggers melting onto your boot. Classy security system, you mutter, somewhere behind the thorns. A raspberry canker beetle snores. Historians still argue whether ice-gilded brambles marked pagan shrines, or just where drunks face-planted. Frost paints your lashes white, blurring the world into a frosted windshield. Kneeling reveals tiny footprints, maybe weasel, maybe a child's bare soul. They circle a granite boulder, half swallowed by vines. Touch the stone, its cold bites deeper than winter should allow. 9th century tanners chilled hides here, and allegedly stored questionable meats. Your stomach gurgles a protest. A bubble of ice encases a spiderweb, its architect suspended mid-scurry, 8 legs splayed in permanent panic. You lean closer, the web quivers, not from wind, from the faint vibration of your pulse. Some say frost preserves whispers, but right now, it's preserving your questionable life choices. Thorns snag your sleeve, their tips glinting like syringe needles. You twist free, feeling oddly judged by vegetation. A frozen blackberry disintegrates under your boot, seeds popping like microscopic firecrackers. 7th century midwives prescribed these for toothaches after boiling them in urine. The ick factor, nature's original placebo effect. Moonlight fractures through ice-twisted branches, projecting a thorny mandala onto the path. Step into its center, and your shadow sprouts antlers. Some dukes hunted here by lamplight, antlers strapped to hounds to mimic forest spirits. You sidestep, antlers dissolving. Blame the cider you had at the inn, or the orchard's habit of editing reality. Ice crunches underfoot, a sound like walking on billionaire egos. A patch of bare earth offers respite until you spot the mushrooms. Snow-flecked caps cluster in a spiral, their gills humming with spores unseen. Folk tailies claim frost-kissed fungi opened doorways. If you're brave enough to lick them, you're not. Your lantern gutters oil sloshing like a seasick sailor. A thorny tunnel arches ahead, its ceiling glittering with stalactite ice. Duck, and a droplet plinks your neck. Charming, you deadpan. The walls press closer, thorns skating over your coat like fingernails on a chalkboard. Vikings once hid loot in such thickets, then forgot which bramble. Imagine their Yelp reviews. Emerging, your knees meet something soft. A rotted bushel basket, its woven ribs cradling frost-embalmed apples. One roll into your palm, its skin mottled tiny teeth marks near the stem. Pagan offerings or squirrel leftovers, the orchard's scriptwriters on break, breath ghosts over the fruit, and for a heartbeat it warms, plumpens. The illusion snaps, leaving a wrinkled sphere colder than a tax auditor's smile. Toss it. It shatters against a tree, icy shrapnel singing past your ear. St. Milburga's nuns fermented such apples into holy cider. Though accounts omit the hangovers, a cough tickles your throat, half phlegm, half the desire to scream into the void. The void answers with a creak, a branch shedding its icy carapace. It lands in a violence of splinters and sparkles. Archaeologists found a frozen druid under similar debris, clutching a scroll about bee migration. His beard, apparently, made great kindling. Blackberry runners snake over a low wall, their frosted tips sketching runes on stone. Trace one with your glove, and the pattern resolves into a sloppy AE. King Ethelred's monogram, or a bored surf's graffiti. The frost fills it in an icy autograph from the void. Left hand numb, you fumble the lantern. It swings, light ricocheting off a scarecrow's remains. Burlap skin split by thorns, straw spilling like frozen innards. Its hat tilts rakishly, a crow's nest abandoned mid-coup. You salute, because surviving this nonsense deserves medals. Sudden warmth blooms on your cheek, a tears' betrayal. It freezes before hitting the ground, a tiny pearl lost to frost. They say Sea-Nut's daughter wept here, her grief so sharp it snowed in July. Tonight, your sniffles lack that kind of clout. The thicket thins, revealing a cottage-sized yew dusted in rime. Its trunk splits into a gaping hollow, edges smooth as a bishop's lies. Inside, a single candle gutters, wax pooling around a thimble. Blink, it's just ice reflecting the moon. Probably frost feathers across your vision, the world a smudged charcoal sketch. You've read about snow blindness, but this is more life politely declining HD. A berry-laden stem brushes your lips, its icy kiss lingering like a dare. Swallow and risk medieval food poisoning. Spit and offend the thorns. Your bootlace snaps, a final screw you from the bramble. Tie it with stiff fingers, knuckles bleeding from phantom nicks. Saxon soldiers used bramble sap to seal wounds, and occasionally to glue hats to bald spots, the things you learn when desperation freelances as a historian. The lantern dims its wick, drowning in wax. Cold gnaws through your cloak, stitching winter into your marrow. First frost always killed the weakest bees, their bodies curled in wax crypts. You stamp your feet, trying to outrun the metaphor. Dawn bleeds through the eastern thicket, pink smeared across frost's blue. The orchard exhales its icy jewelry clattering to the ground. Your breath no longer hangs, just fades, like the lives that pruned these thorns in darkness. Thick moss swallows your footsteps as you approach the stones, 5 monoliths hunched like weathered sentries. Dawn licks their eastern faces, revealing grooves too straight for nature's hand. You squint. One bears a spiral barely deeper than a cat's claw marks, a ghost of intent. Saxon navigators plotted courses by Orion's belt, though their maps favored ale-stained parchment over rock. A lichen-coated monolith tilts toward you, its shadow slicing the frosted grass. Touch the coldest side, and your fingertips stick. Pull free with a hiss. The north wind rifles through your hair, carrying a whisper that smells of brine and burnt yew. 9th century traders swore such winds carried star charts. If you knew how to lick the salt from the air, you decline the experiment. The central stone splits vertically, a jagged fault line splitting a weathered X. Moonlight pools in ITS Chinese letter, forming a trembling asterisk. Historians still argue whether these were sundials or just places to tie particularly dramatic horses. Rain seeps through the crack, dripping onto a beetle's icy tomb below. Its legs splay in eternal mid-crawl. A tiny conqueror frozen centimeters from glory. Kneeling reveals a row of notches along the largest stone's base, each spaced like knuckle bones. Count them: 27, 28, 29. A shepherd's moon tracker, grain tally, Viking graffiti. Your thumbnail fits into the 22nd groove. It thrums, a bass note resonating up your arm. Legend claims certain stones hum when touched by descendants of star watchers, or people who have had too much mead. Frost heaves have shoved 2 stones into a clumsy embrace, their tops leaning like drunken comrades. Between them, a triangle of bare earth. Scoop away leaves, and your nails scrape something smooth. A horse tooth, piece of slag, turn it, the flat side glints. A Roman coin, Caesar's profile worn to a smug blob. Raiders recycled these as fishing weights, and occasionally improvised dice. Wind gusts whipping your hood back. The westernmost monolith groans, a deep, grating exhalation. Press your ear to its flank. Something clicks. Gradual shifts in the rock, maybe, or the sound of a 1,000-year-old yawn. Your breath fogs the stone, briefly reviving a carved wave pattern. 8th century sailors steered by similar symbols, though their idea of north involved a lot more guesswork and drownings. A moth lands on the spiral glyph, wings veined like stained glass. It shivers, shedding iridescent scales onto the stone. Follow its flight path straight up to the dimming stars. Vikings navigated using sunstones, mineral crystals that polarized light through clouds. Modern experiments prove it works if you ignore the sea spray-induced hallucinations. Your pinky traces a groove shaped like a fish's tail. The rock flakes, revealing a hidden layer beneath. More carvings, circles connected by lines, fraying into nothing. Your pulse thuds louder. Scholars unearthed similar etchings in Gotland, aligned with solstice sunrises. Of course, those Vikings also buried their dead with board games. Priorities. The eastern horizon bleeds orange, now daylight, devouring the starfield. A cold blue persists above the tallest stone, as if the sky clings there. Shove your chilled hands into pockets, fingers brushing a forgotten cough drop. Peel the wrapper, it sticks to the monolith side. Future archaeologists will puzzle over this. The sacred Werther's Originals Cult of 2024. One stone tilts at a 70-degree angle, defying physics and polite erosion. Kick its base, and a hollow thunk answers. Badgers, buried treasure. A particularly surly geological formation. Your boot dislodges a pebble, which rolls into a fissure. Count the seconds, 5, 6, 7. The splash echoes. Saxon wells often hid beneath shrines, holy water and practicality in a tidy package. You circle the formation counterclockwise, a stubborn part of you hoping for magic. The wind dies. Silence swells, broken by a distant clang. Probably a frozen branch hitting a gate, probably. The smallest stone stands knee-high, its surface pitted like bone. Sit. Your thighs freeze through denim. A spider emerges from a crack, legs splayed wide to test the air. It retreats, dragging a strand of silk behind. Observe the thread's path, diagonal, insistent. 10th century texts describe priests using spiderweb patterns to predict storms. They also prescribed crushed beetles for indigestion. So maybe don't take career advice from them. The coin warms in your palm, Caesar's blob-eye judging your life choices. Flip it. Tails. The meadow lark's first song slices the silence, a Bronze Age alarm clock. Pocket the coin. That's what the last guy did, and now it's your problem. Shadows shorten, the stones fractured silhouettes knitting together. Stand in the center, and your own shadow sprouts stony protrusions, shoulder spikes, wings, a poorly designed crown. Turn slowly, watching the shapes merge and fracture. Alfred the Great's astronomers mapped eclipses here, their ink freezing before it dried. You're pretty sure they also bet on sheep races. Dew soaks your cuffs as you retreat, grass crunching underfoot. Glance back, the stones seem smaller now. Squint, and the central monolith briefly mirrors the church steeple in the valley. Coincidence, or 7th century spite? Either way, the road ahead smells of time and wood smoke, byproducts of existing downstream from history. The birches cluster like nervous scribes, their papery bark curling into parchment scrolls. Your first step snaps a twig. The sound cracks through the grove like a dropped ink pot. A breeze riffles through leaves, each flutter whispering tick, 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 the world's slowest telegraph system. You peel back a strip of bark. It flakes like century-old tax records. Britons once etched messages on this very surface before parchment bulleted its way onto desks. The scent hits green sap, undercut by a tang of wet ink. 9th century love notes rotted here, full of misspelled sweet nothings and complaints about mead prices. Between two trunks, a diamond of light glows. Approach, and the birches tighten their ranks. Shadows stripe your arms like prison garb. A fallen log wears a fur coat of moss, peppered with mushrooms that squat like disapproving monks. Your boot squeaks on a patch of silver lichen nature's corrupted save point. Ahead, bark dangles in spirals. Catch one mid-fall, it crisps in your palm, edges blackening like burnt manuscript margins. Historians still argue whether those etchings on church walls were star charts or just bored shepherds practicing their X's. The wind picks a fight with the canopy. Birches retaliate by pelting you with seed clusters. Kneel, press your ear to a trunk, the faintest creak answers. Not sap moving, but something older. Your breath steams against white bark, fogging a half-hidden symbol. 3 overlapping circles, triune goddess. Olive loaf recipe, you trace the grooves. Vikings left similar marks on birches near Uppsala, usually beside doodles of particularly impressive ships. Light shifts, the grove flashes gold. A moth lands on your sleeve wings, patterned like inked fingerprints. It flexes, shedding scales that twinkle despite the gloom. In 1348, someone pinned a birch bark love poem to a tree here. The punchline, addressed to a nun. Your shadow stretches, arm merging with a trunk's shadow into a many-fingered claw. It snags on a burl knotted wood bulging like a cyst. Split bark reveals amber sap inside, hardening into forbidden honey. Saxon brewers boiled this stuff into glue, and occasionally, disastrously, beer. Uphill, birches thin into a ghostly colonnade. Their roots snake across the path, thick as ship ropes, and twice as treacherous. One wears a frost wig ice needling its base. Your heel skids. Grab a sapling, it bends like a coachman's whip. Medieval parents warned kids birches would lash them for misbehavior. But mainly, they just wanted 5 minutes of peace. Ahead, a clearing. 5 stumps form a rough pentagon, their tops speckled with toadstools. Sit. The wood creaks, but holds. Viking traders used such circles for mushroom-fueled negotiations, which explained Norway's brief obsession with fermented herring tariffs. Wind snakes through the grove, lifting bark scraps into a mini tornado. A strip slaps your cheek. Its inner side bears faint charcoal dashes. Morse code for get out. Shopping list. The world's saddest tic-tac-toe game. Pocket it. Future use problem. Sunlight retreats, dragging blue shadows over the birch ranks. Your exhales hang pale ghosts dissolving against paperwhite trunks. 9th century chronicles mention druids hiding gold in these woods, but all you find is a soda can from 1996. One tree leans at a gravity-mocking angle, roots clawing air. Push it, nada. Saxon engineers once used birches as living scaffolding until the great plummet of 802. The lesson: always bring extra rope and a change of trousers. A woodpecker hammers nearby, its rhythm syncing with your pulse. Track the sound and find a trunk tattooed with perfect holes. 4 in a row, then a messy 5th. Auditioning for the Avian Philharmonic, or just really bad at math. Dusk seeps in, birches glow like bone fragments under the moon. Strip off another bark curl, hold it to the light. Veins mirror the grove's own branching chaos. Some monk probably stared at this in 1203, then tripped into a heresy charge. Footprints appear ahead, smaller than yours. Follow them. They twist between trees, then vanish at a brook's muddy lip. Kids, poachers, overambitious hedgehogs. A fish breaks the water's skin, ripples erase the tracks. Your lantern gutters, wick drowning in wax. Scratch the glass. A birch's reflection fractures into a dozen trembling scribes. Alfred the Great's laws punished tree poachers with fines. But let's be real, nobody misses that one guy who stole you for salad bowls. The grove tightens, trunks pressing shoulder to shoulder. Rot squeezes your lungs, sweet and fungal. A branch taps your head, depositing a ladybug on your nose. It hesitates, then flies toward the last patch of indigo sky. Romans believed ladybugs carried prayers, but only if you didn't mention taxes. Moonlight bleeds through the canopy, pooling where the birches relent. Ahead, a single tree glows silver blue. Get closer, bark shines wetly. Touch it, your fingers come away dry. Willowfolk legends spoke of moon birches, gateways to a realm with better ale. You wait. The tree yawns, offering only crickets and your own impatient sigh. Grass crunches underfoot as you retreat, each step louder than it should be. The grove's breath follows a papery rasp that quickens your pulse. Don't run. Running invites chase. A twig snaps behind you. Don't look. The birch bride ballads always end with someone's toes getting frosted off. Clear the tree line, and the stars return like nosy neighbors. Your cuffs are soaked, hands resin sticky. Hair full of seeds, destined to colonize your shower drain. The birches rustle once more, a chorus of pages turning. Maybe next chapter's better. The mudslick path spits you out beneath a rowan tree, its branches heavy with berries like tiny warning lamps. At its base, a fox. Rust-red fur ripples as it breathes, paws twitching mid-dream. Snores rattle its whiskers. The kind of nap that would make a yoga instructor weep with envy. You freeze. Rowan wood once fortified Saxon barns. They believed its crimson fruit warded off lightning and accountants. Your boot grinds a pebble. The fox's eyes snap open, topaz discs locking onto yours. Its tail flicks, scattering berries that plop into the grass like overripe curses. A standoff. 9 seconds. 10. Historians still argue whether Saxon brewers used rowan berries in mead, or if that one vomit-strewn manuscript page was just a metaphor. The fox yawns, revealing teeth yellowed by who knows what. Pupils shrink to dagger points. 9th century mothers whispered wishes to foxes during childbirth, right before demanding stronger ale. Dew soaks your knees as you crouch. The rowan's shadow stretches, connecting your shoulder to the fox's paw like a treaty line. Its nose wrinkles, scenting your fear, and possibly the beef jerky from Section 12. Wind combs through the tree berries, tap dancing above your head. Pluck one. It squishes between your fingers, juice staining your palm burnt umber. The fox sneezes. Twice. 3rd century Britons painted rowan sap on shields before battle, which explains why Roman graffiti mentioned those sticky bastards. A beetle trundles over your shoelace. The fox's gaze flicks down. You could sprint, but the tree's roots snake across the path like tripwires. Its stands stretches front legs like a caffeine-deprived barista. Berries tremble as the fox shakes itself, shedding fur that glints copper in the fading light. One tuft drifts onto your sleeve. You have expected to burst into flame. Medieval tanners used rowan ash to cure hides, and also, allegedly, to remove elf acne. A blackbird shrieks overhead. The fox's ear twitches left, then right. It pads toward you, each step silent as a tax audit. 3 paces away it veers, circling the tree trunk. Bark flakes where it brushes past, exposing a spiral carving worn smooth by centuries of rain. Your lanternlit bobs, catching the fox's eyes in twin flashes. It pauses beneath the lowest branch nose, nudging a fallen berry. A crunch. Juice dribbles down its chin. Saxon children stuffed rowan berries up their noses for luck, until someone's uncle got one stuck. Till Easter, the fox snorts, a sound halfway between a laugh and a threat. Then it's gone, melting into the bracken like smoke off a doused campfire. A single red hair clings to the rowan's trunk, vibrating in the breeze. You half expect a riddling poem etched beneath it, but find only beetle tracks and a Starbucks napkin from 2003. Touch the spiral carving. Your fingertip traces grooves colder than the surrounding wood. Vikings planted rowans at grave sites, though whether to honor the dead or annoy the worm's remains contested. Above, the berries sway in a sudden gust. Pluck another, toss it. It arcs over the path, landing in nettles with a muted thunk. Shadows deepen. The rowan's trunk creaks, a low moan that sinks into your molars. Back in Section 7, those owls warned you about lingering. Too late now. Your breath fogs, but the fox's vacant nap spot stays stubbornly frost-free. Some say they steal warmth from the earth. Others just really hate wool socks. A twig cracks eastward, your head whips around. Nothing. lichen flutters, revealing a lipstick smudge and the word Chelsea. Pocket it. Future archaeologists will be thrilled. Rotting leaves squelch underfoot as you retreat, every step broadcasting your location to things with more teeth than manners. The lantern's glow shrinks, stretching the rowan's shadow into a gnarled giant. One last berry drops, splitting open on a root. Juice seeps into the soil black as a widow's newsletter. You glance back. 2 topaz sparks glint in the undergrowth. Here, then there, then gone. Dawn licks the horizon, orchid streaks bleeding through the canopy. The path ahead narrows, hedges closing in like overeager bouncers. Your sleeve snags on a hawthorn, but that's tomorrow's problem. For now, the rowan's faint creak follows you east, each berry a punctuation mark in its silent punchline. The hawthorn releases your sleeve with a snag that would make a tailor wince. Ahead, a clearing choked with moon-bleached grass. At its center, a sundial. Bronze patina swallows your lantern's glow, its surface pocked by lichen, and what might be bird regret. The gnome's shadow points west, though dawn remains trapped behind charcoal clouds. You crouch, fingertips hovering above the metal. 13th century monks calibrated sundials to chantry hours. But this one predates their dour hymns by 3 centuries. Engravings swirl beneath the grime, serpents devouring their own tails. Saxon timekeepers aligned these markers with solstice shadows, a communal calendar for planting and binge drinking mead before winter. A moth lands on the gnomon, wings fluttering like unspooled film. Historians still argue whether sundial carvers worked sober, or if those wobbly glyphs were just Norse graffiti. The shadow creeps, though the moon hasn't budged. Your breath hitches. 9th century Britons whispered that touching a moonlit sundial invited fairy debt collectors, though they also taxed people in chicken eggs. So credibility's thin. The base wobbles when you press it, moss crunching like cereal. A spider scuttles from under the plinth, hauling an earwig carcass like a disgruntled UPS driver. Lichen crumbles under your nail. You taste iron and regret. Turns out sundial lichen was medieval Viagra. Kings supposedly ate fistfuls before weddings. Spoiler, it just gave them rashes and bad decisions. Wind rattles the hawthorns. The shadow leaps east. You jump back, half expecting spectral fingers. Nothing moves but your pulse. 3 grooves mar the dial's edge, claw marks. Rope burns. Archaeologists found similar grooves on a Saxon altar, probably from securing very pious goats. Lanternlit skitters across Roman numerals. They stop at VII. Saxon sundials rarely tracked night hours. Too busy believing moonlight caused gout. Your shadow stretches knife-thin to brush the gnomon's tip. Cold seeps through your souls. Carolingian emissaries wrote of devilish dials that stole hours, but they also hated British ale. Bias noted. A droplet hits the VII. Then another. Rain. You tilt your face skyward, dry as a tax ledger. The droplets keep falling, plinking against bronze. Maple sap, snail mucus. Your thumb swipes the moisture. It shimmers oily green. Alchemists once prized sundial dew for invisibility potions. Results included stained doublets and disappointed warlords. The gnome's shadow quivers, contracting like a pupil. Not possible. The moon glares fixed as a banker's smile. Your knees protest as you crouch lower, nose inches from the engravings. There, amidst the serpent scales, a minuscule handprint, a child's, or something with 5-digit paws. Your own hand hovers, palm out. Pressure builds in your sinuses. The air thickens. 5th century Welsh laws forbade sundial tampering, punishable by 7 years of hauling peat. The shadow twitches westward again. You withdraw, but the dial trembles, shivering like a wet dog. Soil shifts beneath the plinth roots. Worms, denied pension plans, 1 lantern flame gutters, dying with a sulphurous hiccup. The remaining light stretches the shadow across your chest, a cold blade from collarbone to hip. Saxon rebels allegedly used sundials to coordinate raids, which explains why Norman looters smashed so many. Efficiency or performance art. Actual rain now spits sideways. The sundial's numerals weep tarnished streaks. Shelter. Too late. Your hood sags, drips hitting the VIII. Shadow fingers flex, curl, point, insistently northwest. 8th century nuns documented talking dials that predicted storms, though their journals also mention sentient turnips. Peer review remains pending. Lightning fractures the sky for 1 jagged second. The shadow stretches into a gaunt arm index finger, hooked like a reaper's scythe. Thunder follows, shaking the plinth. You stumble back, boots skidding in mud. The hawthorns thrash, their thorns clawing at your jacket. When the aftershock fades, the dial sits inert. Moss dangles from its edge. Shadow points northeast, now dawn's glow barely staining the clouds. Your remaining lantern coughs, sputters, dies. In the sudden dark, bronze whispers against stone. A faint grind like teeth, shifting in a skull. You retreat, path mud sucking at your soles. 3 paces, 4. The dial vanishes behind hawthorn claws. Rain drums your scalp, rinsing green dew from your fingertips. Historians still argue whether Saxon sundials held celestial power or just made excellent bird toilets. The trail bends north, overgrown with brambles that snag your laces, because the orchard hates you personally. Glance back once. The clearing swallows itself in downpour. Only the gnomon remains visible, a skeletal finger accusing the sky or waving goodbye. Dawn wins its war with the clouds. Pale light exposes your shivers. The dial's shadow pointed nowhere, everywhere, then northwest. Should have brought a compass or a therapist. Your sodden sleeve drips, each tap against leaves echoing the sundial's phantom ticks. Another mystery, filed under things to repress, until therapy. Mist rises, veiling the path ahead. Somewhere beyond, the ice house exhales its spectral chill, invitation or warning. Doesn't matter. You're committed now. Sunlight bleeds through branches. Your shadow reappears normal, boring, blessedly silent. Relief tastes like wet wool and stupid choices behind the hawthorn's rustle. You don't turn. Better not to know what or who adjusts the dials when humans aren't looking. The road ahead is all that matters, and the creeping dread that you'll meet that five-fingered shadow again. Perhaps without the buffer of dawn. The lavender hits first, thick enough to gag a Victorian widow. Purple spikes sag like mourners. Their oily scent clogs your throat. Each step crunches, not fallen twigs, but the brittle corpses of bees. Their wings catch your lantern's dregs. A morbid glitter beneath your soles. Saxon beekeepers ringed hives with lavender, a calming balm for their nectar troops. These plants must have overachieved. You swat at the air, absent of living buzz. 10th century monks buried dead drones here in flax pouches, addressed to occupant cloud kingdom. Consider it airmail for the afterlife. A wing sticks to your heel. You scrape it off on a rock. Medieval apiarists believed bees carried prayers to saints, until someone noticed saints never wrote back. Your next step sinks deeper. Mud slurps at your boot. The lavender's roots drink from something below. Black soil reeks of fermented pollen. Historians still argue whether these aromatic borders deterred pests or just annoyed them into submission. Wind ripples the field, a violet wave that parts around your knees. No birds sing here. Even crows hold their breath, sensitive to the botanical lecture building in the air. You crouch. A bee carcass balances on your fingertip. Its abdomen splits, oozing amber goo that smells of forgotten birthdays. Carolingian laws find anyone stealing hives punishment. Dancing barefoot through nettles, you pocket the tiny husk. Souvenir, good luck charm, future regrettable life choice. Lanternlit dies. Its final wheeze licks at a cairn of piled stones. Buried beneath, scrolls claim, rests a queen bee the size of a shrew. Did we say bee? Let's go with that. Her tombstone's a slate shard, etched with a single bind rune. Rain starts again, gentler now. Droplets bead on lavender buds, rolling down to baptize the fallen. 8th century mead recipes required grave damp herbs for that earthy regret aftertaste. Your tongue tingles, phantom honey coating your molars. You spit, nothing changes. The path narrows, walls of lavender rise taller. Their stems rattle like bone wind chimes. Scholars found hallucinogenic spores in similar burial sites. But that's just certain academics after hours. Your pinky twitches, unrelated, surely. A shadow flits through the blooms, too fast. Perhaps a leaf, maybe, a thumb-sized reaper. Your sleeve snags, thorns hid among the florets. Blood blooms on your wrist, 3 perfect dots. Tudor herbalists used lavender to cleanse battle wounds. Tempted, you rub a petal over the cut. It smears green and smells like betrayal. Up ahead, the field ends at a lichen-crusted wall. Someone propped a wooden ladder against the stones, its rungs fuzzy with rot. Choices: climb or retrace steps through the bee necropolis. The ladder creaks, testing your weight. Chickening out seems wiser. Halfway up, a splinter stabs your palm. Reward: a view of the orchard's backbone and a bronze plaque on the wall. Latin script swims in moss. Here lies industry. Poetic or beekeepers had budget cuts. The final rung cracks. You lunge for the top, knee-meeting stone. Beyond the wall, moonlight drenches wild grass. Your lantern corpse stays behind tribute to the lavender overlords. The first living bee zips past. It veers from your stink of desperation and grave sap. You don't blame it. Wind shifts. The lavender's sigh carries across the wall. It whispers of queens entombed with miniature crowns, of monks bottling drone screams as holy tonic, of your own heartbeat sinking with 1,000 wings. You run a hand through your hair. It comes back, dusted with pollen. Dawn's fingers pry at the horizon. The bee's final shift begins. Dead wings mulch underfoot, feeding roots that'll birth new purple tyrants. Circle of life, circle of allergic reactions. Your knees protest as you descend. The ladder collapses into splinters. A quiet screw you from the orchard. Mud sucks at your boots again. Different texture, now grittier, resigned. Last night's rain pools in paw print's dog. Fox, disgruntled apiary ghost. The plaque winks from atop the wall. Industry, indeed. Historians still argue whether Saxon beeswax candles burned brighter, or if we just miss the dark ages. The lavender's cloying grip loosens, replaced by air so cold it gnaws your sinuses. Ahead, a dirt mound hunches like a sleeping bear. Frost patterns spiderweb its surface, breath-stealing crystals formed from nothing. Your lantern flame shrinks. A cowering sun in this sudden winter. Norman ice houses, buried blocks cut from frozen rivers, packed in charcoal for summer feasts. This one's older, angrier. Each step cracks ice film grass, a sound like snapping chicken bones. 13 steps down, rough-hewn stones bite through your soles. Saxon builders mixed horsehair into mortar here, their version of climate control. A rusted iron door groans. Its hinges sing another octave higher. Inside, darkness swallows your light whole. The chill climbs your spine, a lover's whisper with teeth. Historians still argue whether these vaults stored meat or just noble egos needing chilled wine. Your exhale hangs, a phantom petting your cheek before dissolving. Moss devours the walls, green fur thriving where light never reaches. You brush a patch, it crumbles to dust. 10th century ledgers mention ice maidens, hired to sing to stored blocks, preventing melancholy of the frost. Quit giggling. People got tenure for studying this. Your boot skids. Black ice hides beneath centuries of silt. Lanternlit quivers over grooves in the wall tally marks. Claw strokes. Maybe both. Workers' claimed voices seeped from the ice, begging for summer's kiss. You press an ear to stone here, only your pulse thudding like a trapped hare. A glint catches your eye, a bottle wedged in a crevice. Victorian explorers left brandy here, liquid courage against the soul ague. This one's empty, its label peeled off by frost's relentless tongue. You pocket it anyway. Future use problem. Deeper in the ceiling drips. Each droplet freezes midair. They hang like cursed pearls. Tap your forehead with glacial spite. Carolingian queens wore ice-chip necklaces during summer riots, proof of divine favor. You snap one off. It melts in your palm before reaching daylight. The chamber narrows. Shoulders scrape both walls. Something crunches underfoot, not ice. Lantern reveals deer bones hundreds, arranged in radial patterns. Medieval huntsmen cached trophies here, or something performed rituals with femurs and antlers. Best not dwell. Your nape prickles, that sixth sense screaming turn around. You don't. Norse sagas warn of Draugr, corpse giants guarding frozen hordes. Rational? No. But your pace quickens, heel squelching a bone into pulp. Let scholars debate burial rites. You'll take panic, a dead end and a choice. Retreat or touch the wall's weeping ice. You lean in forehead against the slick surface. Distorted shapes swim beyond, slender reaching. Then the lantern gutters, plunging you into blackness thicker than Chartres cathedral stew. Fumbling, the flame resurrects, a feeble martyr. The wall now shines bare, no shadows, but your own. A laugh bubbles up, nervous, too loud. It ricochets, becomes a choir of manic giggles. Ice houses amplify sound, sure. But this feels personal. Retreating, you count steps, a childhood trick against the dark. 34, 35, the door wait. 36, steps down, 37 back. Your gut knots. Saxon architects loved their spite steps. Historians still argue whether miscounts discouraged thieves or just amused sadistic masons. The door reappears, slightly ajar, or was it always? Flee or linger, your breath fogs the answer. Outside, dawn threatens to blush, if it dares. The lantern succumbs, its final spark hisses against encroaching frost. You emerge, knees mud-streaked and pride dented. The mound exhales one last plume of winter, frosting your lashes shut. Blink hard, daylight wins. Behind, ice creaks, something shifts, but you're already crunching toward the next horror. The ice house's final shiver still clings to your ribs, its aftertaste of winter sharp on your tongue. Dawn struggles through gnarled oaks, painting the next horror in liquid gold. A vine-strangled chapel looms ahead, crumbling archway, framing a shattered stained glass eye. Some lunatic hung a loom in the gaping window, warped wood creaking with each breeze. You pause. Bavarian nuns wove altar cloths while reciting psalms. Their rhythm supposedly blessed the threads. This thing's no holy relic. Its shuttle dangles like a broken pendulum. Closer, the rotting treadles stutter, click-clack, click-clack-clack. A moth-eaten tapestry clings to the frame, depicting boar hunts, now green with mold. Historians still argue whether medieval looms caused repetitive strain injuries, or if that's just modern keyboards projecting. Step inside, rotten floorboards moan a warning. Cobwebs glint silver where light slices through holes, nature's lace replacing man's. Your left palm itches, an odd tingling, as if threads coil beneath skin. 5th century Britons believed flax spinning opened portals to ancestral memory. You inspect your hand, nothing but dirt and goosebumps. The loom falls silent. Always how it works, ghosts hate audiences. Tattered yarn spills from a basket, colors faded to burial shroud gray. Touch a strand, it crumbles, releasing a scent of sheep fat and rue. Anglo-Saxon weavers soaked wool in fermented urine to set dyes. A fact your nose now regrets knowing. A draft stirs the hanging threads. They brush your neck like spider legs. The urge to bolt wars with morbid curiosity. Curiosity wins. Runes carve the loom's beam, crude symbols resembling birds in flight. 9th century Frisian love charms used similar marks, though this feels less romance, more curse. Your shadow stretches across the far wall, elongated wrong. It flickers, as if mimicking the loom's lost rhythm. A joke forms. Textile-based horror isn't my worst date, but your throat clamps shut. The air thickens. Wool fibers swirl in your lantern's beam, spiral descend. Sneeze, a seismic blast disrupting the dust. Blink, and a woman's silhouette materializes at the loom. Translucent, face blurred like smudged charcoal. Her hands fly, shuttle darting faster than flesh allows. Threads materialize, blood-red gold, then unravel before reaching the cloth. Scholars debate whether medieval ghost looms stem from flax hallucinogens or sleep-deprived monks copying manuscripts next door. You'd bet on option 3, undead crafters with commitment issues. The specter turns, hollow eyes locking onto yours, and vanishes. Only the creak remains slower now, a heartbeat winding down. Something tugs your sleeve, invisible, persistent. The yarn basket tips, strands snake around your ankle. Stomp, they disintegrate, only to reform inches away. Hildegard of Bingen wrote of thread demons that knotted travelers' fates, but she also prescribed gemstone enemas. So, retreat backing into a spindle jutting from the wall. It gouges your shoulder, a hot sting cutting through the chill. Blood dots the floor, droplets rolling toward the loom like iron filings. The mechanism groans, starts spinning, wild, furious. Lantern oil sloshes, a safety hazard you're too alive to ignore. Flee, but the doorway's gone, replaced by more cobwebbed wall. Panic curdles your stomach. This isn't architect spite. This is sentient dry rot. The tapestry ripples, moldy boars charging, huntsmen's spears bending toward your chest. Grab the shuttle. It sears your palm, branding pain shooting up your arm. Throw it, shatter the stained glass eye. A shard slices your cheek, cold air floods, in reality reasserts. Dawn's properly awake. Now, birdsong drowns out the loom's death rattle. You stumble outside, tripping over a half-buried quernstone. The chapel exhales dust, its silhouette sagging, defeated. Unclench your fist. Red marks etch a rune matching the beam, already fading. Could have sworn those Frisian love charms required kissing. But hey, free tattoo. A spider scrambles from your collar, seeking safer architecture. Smart, you mutter, wiping phantom threads from your eyes. The next horror waits, probably involving pitchforks or vengeful turnips. You press on, because what's an orchard without existential dread before brunch? The chapel's cobwebs still cling to your lashes, its loom echoes replaced by the crunch of frozen grass underfoot. Ahead, a stone slab emerges, checkered cloth fused to its surface by decades of rot. What's left of a loaf petrifies there, blue-green fur claiming its crust. A pewter cup tilts nearby, tarnished black, something viscous glinting at its bottom. Ants march in geometric lines, each hauling bread fragments to a hidden nest. Their procession parts around a rusted knife, its ivory handle carved with hairs mid-leap. Tudor picnic sets often included vermin-repelling cutlery. Little good it did this spread. You lean closer. The cloth's pattern resolves into dancing bears, their embroidered paws now mossy fuzz. A chill nips your neck, not from wind, from stillness. No bird song here, no creak of boughs. Even your breath seems muted, as if the air's too thick to carry sound. The slab feels colder than surrounding stones, sapped of warmth, or hoarding it. 7th century burial markers, doubled as feast tables during solstice rites. A fact that doesn't comfort. One ant detours, climbing your boot to inspect the laces. You flick it off, it cartwheels, then rejoins the column undeterred. Union workers, you mutter, but the joke curdles in the silence. That cup, why does it pull your gaze? Liquid inside moves, though nothing disturbs it. Medieval brewers fermented eternal ale in sealed vessels, said to outlast the drinker. You're not thirsty enough to test it. Kneel, your knee sinks into loam surprisingly soft, almost spongy. The earth here smells wrong, sweet decay, like overripe pears and tarnished silver. Ants swarm a crack in the slab, their prizes vanishing into darkness. Historians still argue whether picnic culture spread after the Black Death. Festivals mocking mortality with open-air feasts. This feels less celebration, more Last Supper. Light shifts, your shadow falls across the slab, and the ants freeze. Abandon their crumbs, form a perfect circle around your silhouette's edge. Your pulse thuds in your ears, beat, 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 as they turn in unison. Antennae aimed at your throat, backpedal heel catching on a root. You sprawl, elbow smacking a buried jug. It cracks, releasing a vinegar stench that scorches your sinuses. The ants scatter, normalcy rushing back like a released breath. The jug's shards glint Roman glass, their wine containers often lined with poison-resistant resin. Too bad whatever's inside breached the warranty centuries ago. Lanternlit dances over the slab, now revealing names scratched near its base. Wulfric, Ethelthryth, Coenard, each crossed out with jagged lines. Saxon curse tablets used similar markouts, protection from vengeful spirits. This feels inverted, like the stone itself is cursed. A crumb brushes your wrist, but the ants are gone. You freeze. It inches upward, a bread fragment walking on spindly legs. Beechthorn mites, parasites that puppet debris to ambush prey. Drop it, and it scuttles under the cloth, a scampering silhouette. Nope, you declare, voice finally breaking the silence. Allergy to sentient carbs. The slab groans, a subsonic rumble deep in the earth. Roots writhe momentarily, then stiffen. Elderberry bushes loom above their twisted trunks, framing the scene like disapproving jurors. Anglo-Saxons believed elders housed spirits and would never nap beneath them. Too late for that wisdom. Something winks in the moss, a ring, its garnet cracked, but still bloody red. Pry it free, a woman's band sized for a child's finger. Infant nobles wore such rings during treaty marriages, tiny shackles of politics. Toss it back, metal clinks against stone, then rolls into the jug's broken throat. Wind whispers through the elders, a gust finally breaching the stillness. The cloth flaps, tearing where mold weakens it. Beneath, a carving emerges, two figures holding a crescent moon aloft. Pagan, Saxon, your thumb brushes the groove, and static crawls up your arm. 19th century mediums swore ritual sites held ectoplasmic batteries. But this just feels like bad decisions. The pewter cup vibrates, liquid within swirling clockwise. Kick it, metal clangs. Liquid oozes, stops moving. Your grandmother's voice nags in your head. Don't antagonize the haunted cutlery. Sunlight bleeds through clouds, sharpening shadows. Ants return, now lugging a beetle's iridescent wing. Their nest must be Versailles down there. You rise, bones creaking in protest. The slab seems smaller now, less a relic, more a discarded table. Pocket a crumb for science or stupidity. Who decides these things? And step back. The elder branches snag your hair, release reluctantly. Centuries ago, a servant might laid this spread for lovers, or laid on it for burial. That's the problem with ruins. Happy endings rot faster than the tragedies. Lantern oils running low, its flame gutters as you turn away. Behind, the checkered cloth finally surrenders, dissolving into the earth like wet parchment. Above, the elders creak, a chorus of wooden knuckles cracking. Your boots find the path again, but the ants' weightless footsteps linger, marching in time with your heartbeat. The elder's grip releases your hair, strands, unraveling from its claw-like twigs. You stumble forward, boot squelching into mud that smells suspiciously like fermented apples. Ahead, a hedge rises, its thorns knitting into a shape that hooks your breath. Not a shape. A woman, ivy cascading over her shoulders, stone peeking through green where joints should bend. One arm stretches toward the path, fingers fused mid-reach. Saxon nobility loved their garden quirks. Romans carved caryatids. But these folks preferred hedges that bite. Blink, now it's just brambles, a trick of shadow and stubborn chlorophyll. Rub your eyes, fingertips come away smeared with pollen. 16th century herbalists swore nightshade pollen caused visions, convenient excuse for bad topiary decisions. The hedge shivers. No wind, but the leaves part, revealing that silhouette again. Her ivy hair sways, though yours doesn't. A moth lands on her cheek, wings fanning like lashes. You step closer, moss crumbles underfoot, sharp and herbal, like crushed rosemary. Historians still argue whether Saxon women wore ivy crowns during harvest rites, or if that's just Victorian poets romanticizing dirt. The debate feels moot now. Staring at chlorophyll couture, one thorn pricks your palm, pain blooms, then fades. Blood beads, black in the lantern's guttering light. Medieval hedges were boundary markers, alive with more than metaphor. Trespassers told stories of thorns that remembered. Her stone eye glints, wet suddenly. Condensation. You lean in, scent of rain on flint. A droplet trails down the ivy, hits your wrist, and burns. Charming, you hiss, wiping it on your sleeve. The fabric sizzles faintly, like soda ash meeting water. A root snakes around your ankle, tugging gently. Not aggressively, just insistent. Subtle, you tell the hedge a voice high enough to betray you. The root retreats, dragging a ribbon of soil. Beneath, a child's shoe leather, petrified into bark. The caryatid's mouth moves. Not a sound, but the ivy rustles, I beg your pardon, in garden variety British. Your lantern dims, fuel nearly spent. 3 facts surface. 1. Topiary isn't supposed to watch back. 2. The shoe has tiny iron nails. Saxon designs favored woven reeds. And 3. Your hands are shaking. Blink, she's vines again. But the moth remains, now perched on your collar. Its wings brush your neck, each stroke whispering, go, go, go. You obey, sidestepping the root's return swipe. Lanternlit catches something metallic in her chest, a brooch. Pry it loose, green patina flaking onto your nails. The clasp resists, then pops, revealing a hollow behind the ivy. Inside, a scroll case, beeswax still sealing its ends. Break the seal, parchment unfurls, ink alarmingly fresh. A sketch of the same hedgewoman, labeled Lady Wulfruna's Folly. Do not water after sundown. 10th century humor doesn't land like it used to. The moth takes flight, wings brushing the parchment. Where it touches, lines writhe, reforming into a map. Your path twists through the orchard, ending at a well you swear you've passed twice. Classic Saxon directions, more riddle than root. A vine snaps behind you, thorny fingers grazing your heel. No more Mr. Polite Gardener. You bolt, parchment crumpled in your fist. The map scratches your palm, a paper cut, singing with vinegar-sharp pain. Glance back. The caryatid stands fully formed now, ivy braided with wolfsbane flowers. Her stone lips part, a sigh gusting over you, carrying the tang of overturned graves. The lantern dies, but her eyes glow, two foxfire embers winking farewell. Dawn pales the eastern hedge. You clutch the scroll case, its metal still warm. Somewhere ahead, water splashes the well's promise or threat. The moth leads, wings phosphorescent in the gloom. Your boot squelches again, and you realize the mud's not apples, it's mead. The mead mud clings to your boots each step, releasing sweet rot masked by petals. Pink drifts pile waist-high against the wall, their scent cloying, like sugar drowning in vinegar. Saxon walls leaned inward for stability, but this one buckles outward, as if something pushed back. You crouch, fingers sinking into blossom snow. 6th century parents buried children with poppet dolls, limbs stuffed with honeycomb to sweeten the afterlife. The doll in your hand has no honey, just moth-eaten yarn hair and one button eye. Historians still argue whether these were toys or tiny vessels for whispered prayers. Lanternlit gutters across the wall's cracks, revealing pebbles wedged like teeth in a giant's jaw. One stone rattles loose, plink-plunk into the blossoms. Air currents swirl, lifting petals into a cyclone that reeks of forgotten birthdays. A tiny shift in the pile, another doll's arm juts skyward, fingers knitted from grass. Saxon women spun charms from cemetery nettles, but this feels personal. Your thumbnail picks at the yarn scalp. It unspools, revealing wheat stalks coiled like a brain. Wind stills. The button eye rolls toward you, ratcheting like a beetle's shell. You pocket it, instinct overriding sanity. Mistaken choice. The remaining eye darkens, pupil dilating into a keyhole. Through it glimpse a girl in a linen shift, dropping petals into a wicker basket. She hums, the same tune the ivy caryatid sighed. Not a memory, you think, not quite. Her song pulls at your ribs, an ache older than the wall. Blink, vision dissolves. The doll's socket now holds a live spider, legs tap-coding warnings on your palm. You flick it off, too late. Silk strands already lace your wrist, a bracelet tightening with each heartbeat. The petals stir again, this time revealing a shale slab. Carved initials, EADBURH. 5th century nobles recycled Roman stones for graves, scratching names over old legion marks. This one's crisp, recent. A prank. Your boot scuffs the slab. It tilts, exposing roots below. They pulse, fat and purple, pumping liquid that smells of burnt honey. 6th century mead brewers buried vats near orchards. Could this be a yeast vein gone wild? You poke a root. It spasms, spraying amber droplets. The doll in your pocket grows warm. Petals coat your tongue now, swollen with nectar. Spit, but the sweetness lingers. Some Saxon remedies used apple blossoms for fevers, others for silencing noisy wives. A joke, you hope. The spider bracelet cinches tighter. A child's laugh ripples from the wall. Not playful, damp, like sound filtered through sod. Shadows congeal into a shape small, holding a petal parasol. Eadbur. You don't ask, don't dare. She points at your pocket. Then the spider threads. The doll's button warms, scorching your thigh. You fling it down. It bounces, lands upright. Its grass fingers pluck a petal, places it over the missing eye. Now it watches, judgmental, digging nails into the shale slab. You pry it fully aside. Roots thrash below, coiling around a bone flute. Blow instinctively, no sound. But the spider silk vibrates. The thread music pulls petals into shapes. A house, a hearth, a tiny grave. Eadbur's shadow claps, silent, enthusiastic. The vision sharpens, smoke curls from the spectral hearth. Archaeologists found charred dolls in Essex. Some claim ritual burns. Others say bored kids playing with fire. You lean closer. The smoke stings, real as cider vinegar. The doll tugs your sleeve, leading you along the wall. Buried beneath petals, a rusted key. Too small for any lock here, you mutter. Wrong. It fits the shale slab's edge perfectly, turning with a click. The wall exhales, petals cascading like a curtain. Behind, a single apple tree, blooms glowing like gaslight. Nestled in its roots, a wicker basket. Inside, dust, a scrap of parchment, and a thimble-sized cauldron. Eadbur's shadow presses a petal to your lips, compulsion, not request. Swallow. Vision fractures. You're her, 7 years old, grinding petals into paste. Mother's voice sharp for the wall, to keep it sleeping. The doll in your lap stirs, hay-stuffed lips parting. Run, blink, back to now, sweat chilling your neck. The basket holds your button, the cauldron, and a knife no longer than a fingernail. Saxon witches, misguided nannies. You pocket the cauldron, its weight disproportionate. Lead. Guilt. The lantern dies. Petals phosphoresce, guiding you past the wall. Eadbur's shadow waves, strands of yarn hair lifting in a non-existent breeze. One thread snakes around your ankle, snaps, falls among the roots. The spider silk dissolves, but its imprint remains, a ghost hand around your wrist. Dawn bleeds through the orchard. Somewhere, a bee drones. Your boot finds solid ground at last, no more petal quicksand. The key burns in your palm, insignificant, inevitable. You glance back. The wall stands straight now. Blossoms neatly piled. A doll's laugh follows you, tinny, and far too close. The doll's laugh dissolves into silence, leaving your ears ringing with its porcelain echo. A new sound cuts through a liquid trill that shouldn't exist this far north. Nightjars vanished from England after the Black Death, yet here one sings, its cry landing somewhere between a whistle and a sob. You pivot, lanterns swinging wildly. The orchard's geometry warps, apple trunks leaning like drunk chess pieces. Saxon maps marked nightjars as soul guides, but they also feared their milk-stealing beaks, probably just goats confused by campfires. You think, clinging to logic, like a child to a blanket. The call comes again, closer. Your boot catches on a root, sending you sprawling into rotted leaves. 16th century herbalists brewed nightjar ashes for insomnia, which seems redundant. The mud here smells wrong, metallic, like a wet coin pressed to your tongue. A shadow darts overhead, wings silent as oil on water. Your lantern dies mid-swing, plunging you into ink. The trill reverberates in your teeth now, insistent. Historians still argue whether nightjars guided lost travelers or just laughed at them. Your vote's leaning toward option 2. Blind, you crawl toward the sound, fingertips grazing cold stone. A pillar. No, too narrow. A sword hilt juts from the earth, its grip wrapped in rotted leather. 9th century Vikings buried blades as land claims, but this steel's pitted, eaten by centuries of dew. The nightjar screams directly above you. Flail, connect with feathers. Something small and warm drops into your lap, a hatchling. Its heartbeat thrums against your palm, frantic as a moth in a jar. Parent birds dive, wings grazing your scalp. Let go screams every survival instinct. You don't. Saxon midwives placed nightjar eggs under pillows to ward off stillbirths. Questionable science. But the chick's warmth feels like a secret worth keeping. Its beak pecks your thumb, drawing blood. Fair. The adult's cries shift, less angry, almost curious. Moonlight pierces the canopy, revealing your accidental theft. The chick's plumage glints odd, not brown and gray, but iridescent green. A hybrid. No, your nail scrapes off centuries-old paint. Some Tudor fool gilded a nightjar, then lost it to history. The chick squawks, its wings drooping under decorative weight. Fancy bird jail, you mutter, picking at flaking gold. The metal tastes sour, lead-based, probably. Above, wings flap in retreat. The parent's silhouette perches on a branch, head cocked. You set the chick down. It waddles 3 steps, collapses. Guilt prods you to scoop it up again. 9th century penitence carried bread to atone for stolen eggs. But all you've got is half a mint gum. The nightjar trills, low and mournful. An idea strikes, digging the doll's cauldron from your pocket. Saxon witches brewed sky teas in miniature vessels. The records don't specify why. You spit into the thimble-sized bowl. Add a petal from your collar. The parent bird stills. The chick nibbles the cauldron's rim, sneezes. Silver liquid bubbles up odorless, glowing faintly. Great, you sigh. Now I'm a drive-through for cursed smoothies. The chick drinks, shudders, vomits gold flakes. Its painted plumage slews off, revealing healthy speckled down. The adult swoops, snatches the chick midair. They vanish into the gloom, leaving you with a cauldron full of molten metal. Solidifying, it takes the shape of a key too large for any lock here. Heavy, cold, humming with bee-like vibrations. The orchard exhales, trees straighten, moonlight sharpens. Ahead, a stone well festooned with chains. Viking chronicles mention singing wells that tuned warriors' courage, but the sagas skip the part where they're padlocked. Your new key fits, turns, protests. Rust flakes off like dirty snow. The chains slither down, piling at your feet. Peer over the edge, blackness, then a glint. Gold, no beetle wings. Millions swirling like constellations. One brushes the bucket, bursts into blue flame. Nightjars were said to drink fire, but this feels literal. A wingspan grazes your back. The parent bird lands on the rim. It stares into the well, then at you, unblinking. Dread pools in your knees. This isn't a request. The bucket sways, inviting. You lower it, rope groaning. The beetle fire parts, revealing a mirror at the bottom. Your reflection grins, but your real face isn't moving. Run, it mouths, same as Eadbur's doll. The nightjar shrieks, a sound felt more than heard. Light erupts, you're falling, not downward, sideways. Branches whip past, apples bursting into cider mist. The cauldron key burns, melts, reshapes into a harp pin. You stab it into a trunk, skid to a halt. Above, the nightjar circles, trilling what might be a lullaby or a dirge. Dawn stains the horizon. The bird plunges beak first into the well mirror. Glass shatters silently. Your ears pop, balance returning. At the well's base, shards glint, each reflecting a different season. Autumn leaves, winter frost, spring blossoms. The nightjar flies west, dissolving into daylight. Your pockets empty, no key, no cauldron, just a single gold feather stuck to your sleeve. When you swipe it, the barbs slice your skin. Blood beads, forming a perfect rune. Lagas, maybe, or someone's idea of a sick joke. The orchard quiets, no birds, no dolls, just bees beginning their shift. Your boots find a path, littered with painted feathers. Each step crunches, releasing the scent of lead and wet soil. The lantern stays dead, but morning's enough for now. Sunlight fractures through dew-strung webs, each strand a prism, throwing rainbows onto your boots. What looked like gnarled apple boughs now arch cathedral high, ceilinged with silk canopies. Every step sends tremors through the gossamer vaults. Eight-legged architects scuttle to secure their sagging masterpieces. You crouch beneath a web veiling the path, its anchor threads thicker than your thumb. Saxon healers used spider silk to dress wounds, though you doubt medieval band-aids came with residents still attached. A fat orb weaver descends, striped abdomen swaying, halting inches from your nose. Its fang tips glisten, probably judging your life choices. The web shudders, a trapped bluebottle buzzes its final rave. The spider pounces, wrapping its meal faster than a deli sandwich. Efficiency, you mutter, not envious. Not at all. Vict Arin nobles held funerals for house spiders, complete with black-veiled cages. But this one seems content, without eulogies. Morning light warms the silk, releasing a scent like burnt sugar. The webs aren't sticky, your fingers brush a strand, it hums. Norse sagas mention singing threads that warned of intruders. Yet another thing school skips. Historians still argue whether medieval weavers copied spiral patterns from arachnids, or just had really bad eyesight. A silk strand snaps plink, and the orchard holds its breath. Thousands of spiders freeze, clustering at web junctions like commuters missing their train. You inch backward, heel squelching into something unspeakable. Rowan berries mash underfoot, their crimson guts mirroring the poisoned sacs on that orb weaver's back. Coincidence? Unlikely. The spiders retreat, vanishing into leaf curls. Their abandoned webs sag, gold filaments catching the rising sun. 9th century illuminators used crushed spider eggs for gilt ink, your brain helpfully notes, while you pluck silk from your hair. It's everywhere, your sleeves, your collar. Woven into a lacy nightmare, a shadow glides overhead, too large for a bird. You duck, but it's just a web sail billowing like a parachute caught on the wind. The spider's engineered escape routes, smarter than you, currently tangled in a hammock of their reject silk. You fumble free, cobweb residue coating your palms like ectoplasm. Something crunches under your boot, a desiccated beetle carcass wearing a tiny silk hat. Respect. Ahead, the web's thin, revealing a stone bench crusted in lichen. Saxon judges held court beneath threaded arches, spider silk, symbolizing Weod's tangled web. But this seat's occupied. A huntsman spider sprawls across the bench, legs splayed like a drunk starfish. Its abdomen pulses, nursing eggs. You edge past, breath held. The spider twitches, one eye stalk tracking you, then resumes ignoring existence. 10th century texts claim certain spiders recited poetry if fed honey. But you're fresh out of bribes. The path steepens, webs give way to ivy-choked oaks. Behind you, silk banners rustle, reconstructing their airy empire. A strand sticks to your nape, cold, deliberate. You resist turning, mostly. The spiders haven't followed. Good, better. The bench spiders probably drafting a Yelp review about you right now. 1 star, tracked mud through my lobby. Would not recommend. Sun climbs, burns off the dew. Your shadow stretches, becoming a stretched out scarecrow trailing threads. You pluck silk from your eyelashes, wondering how many generations of spiders just adopted you. The answer: at least 3. Their abandoned nurseries cling to your sleeves. Tiny egg sacs jeweled in morning light. Ahead, the orchard's edge looms, thick with brambles and the promise of escape. Behind, silk cathedrals collapse, recycling themselves into tomorrow's traps. You keep walking because spiders deserve their privacy, and you've got gum to spit out. The brambles part, revealing a lichen-eaten millstone propped against a rotting post. A dirt-caked flute rests on its edge holes, choked with centuries of mud. You scrape a thumb across the instrument. It emits a wheeze, like a sheep with bronchitis. Saxon millers ground grain here when London was still Londinium. Their stones turned by water that now stagnates in a scum-topped pond. Crouching, you peer into the algae broth. Frog eyes glint just below the surface, a parliament of them, ribbiting in damp democracy. Historians still argue whether Miller's Daughter ballads stemmed from real tragedies or just medieval bards simping for cottagecore. You balance the flute on your knee, its crud flaking off like dried snakeskin. 8th century treaties forbade flute playing during harvest. They thought music distracted water spirits guarding the crops. A dragonfly zips past, body enameled iridescent blue. It hovers near the flute's mouthpiece, wings buzzing a high C tuning. You ask. The pond belches, bubbles rise, pop. Your shadow stretches over the water, and the frog chorus cuts off mid-croak. Not ominous at all. You blow, air whistles through a single working hole. The note quivers, drowned by a bullfrog's indignant glunk. 10th century peasants believed frogs swallowed the souls of drowned musicians, their throats bloated with unfinished symphonies. The dragonfly flees, clearly unimpressed. A leaf skitters across the millstone, edge browned like parchment. Pressed into its veins, faint charcoal lines sketch a girl's face, eyes wide, mouth a round O of song. Folk tales claim miller's daughters could charm fish into leaping onto dinner plates. But this one's recipe seems lost. You flick the leaf. It spirals into the pond, floating like a miniature Viking funeral ship. The flute warms in your grip, sweat loosening centuries of grime. Spin it sideways, and moonlight glints on a name carved near the thumb rest. Elfsige. Either a lover, a luthier, or someone really into personalized kitchenware. A frog leaps onto the millstone, its throat pulsing. You stare, it stares, the standoff, broken, when a mayfly kamikazes into your nostril. The pond ripples, circular waves lap at your boots. Hum that same broken note, and the water answers. Not echoes, harmonies. Deeper tones rise from below, sub-bass croaks, syncing with your hum. Medieval bishops condemned pond consorts as demonic karaoke. But tonight you've got backup singers. Mud oozes between your toes, you recoil. But the flute stays dry. Strange. Its reed mouthpiece feels suspiciously smooth, as if oiled by endless play. An ox-cart axle lies half submerged nearby, rusted wheels fused with tree roots. Saxon law fined millers for adulterated flour. A wrist slap compared to eternal jam sessions with amphibians. The frog hops onto the flute, webbed feet straddling the holes. Its throat quivers, producing a sound like a wet squeegee. Encore, you deadpan, but it deflates, slipping back into the pond with a plop. Rude, wind stirs the reeds, their whisper almost words. Play, play, or maybe that's the sleep deprivation talking. You wipe the mouthpiece, hesitate, blow. 3 notes escape before the flute gurgles, drowning in backwash. The pond froths, fins break the surface, circling the murk. Something nips your heel, you jerk upright, scattering tadpoles. 9th century illuminated manuscripts show mermaids gnawing on flute reeds. Probably a metaphor. Probably. The millstone shifts, grinding against its post with a tombstone groan. Cracks web across its surface, dusting your jeans with powdered granite. Time to go. You prop the flute against its algae cradle, untangling a strand of pondweed from your sleeve. The frogs resume their chorus, a farewell dirge in D minor. Your shadow retreats, stretching toward a gap in the willows. Behind, water slaps stone, and the flute teeters, falls, swallowed by duckweed with a satisfied glug. You follow your shadow through willow tendrils, their leaves brushing your neck like damp fingers. The orchard tightens here, roots breach the soil like knuckle bones. One coils around a blackened hearthstone, its granite split by frost and forgotten fires. Saxon hearths anchored every home, symbols of kinship, until Viking raids turned them to kindling. Kneeling, you sift ash through your hands, grit clings like ghostly flour. 8th century parents buried children's milk teeth in hearths, insurance against wandering spirits. Your nail catches on a half-charred acorn, its cap etched with crude runes. Protection, or please, stop burning my nuts. Paleography gets fuzzy. A root snaps underfoot. The sound cracks through stillness. Centuries-old smoke seeps from the stone, curling into shapes. A boar's snout. A sickle gone before you blink. Historians still argue whether hearth circles were communal or clan-exclusive, academic quibbles drowned by the barkeeps. Next round, you trace the hearth's edge, stone worn smooth by generations of sweaty tankards. Iron scraps litter the soil, nails twisted into crude hooks. Legends claim hearth witches forged love charms here, bent metal whispering secrets to the flames. Your boot grinds one flat. It screams like a stepped-on cat. Wind funnels through the roots. A low drone fills your skull. Charcoal sketches flash behind your eyes. A woman laughing, hands stained with soot and henna. 10th century laws find anyone blocking a hearth smoke hole, apparently medieval code for don't kill the vibe. The lantern gutters, its light shrinks to an amber fist. Cold seeps up from the stone, not winter's bite, but the marrow-deep chill of spent embers. You crouch closer, breath fogging the granite. For a heartbeat, your reflection wears a crown of sparks. Something rustles in the root tangle of vole. Too rhythmical. Fingers of ivy creep toward the ash-piled tips, recoiling at your sigh. Saxon poets called hearth smoke the breath of sleeping giants, which explains the snores rumbling under your knees. A root taps your shoulder. You whirl, but it's just your cloak snagged on a knot. Relax, you mutter, voice swallowed by the hearth's maw. Folk tales warn of fireless hearths devouring voices, though that might have been a mum's ploy for quiet. Pressure builds in your ears, air thickens with resin and mead dregs. The roots creak, tightening around the stone like possessive arms. Your thumb finds a groove in the granite, worn deep by countless thumbs before. Drip, drip, water. No, sap oozes from an overhead root, glazing your wrist in sticky amber. Moonlight bleeds through the canopy. Ash glows bone white. 3 scratch marks mar the stone's face, tally counts, or claw gouges. Run your palm over them, and the drone sharpens, a note plucked from a harp's lowest string. A log shifts in the roots, powdered charcoal puffs into your eyes. You stumble back, vision swimming with ember motes. When the sting clears, a handprint smolders on the stone, palms smaller than yours, fingers splayed in warning or greeting. Footsteps echo, not your own. Heavy, methodical, circling the hearth's perimeter. The lantern dies, but the handprint flares, bathing the roots in foxfire green. Your nape prickles, the sensation of being measured, weighed against some invisible ledger. The footsteps halt. Ash swirls into a miniature tornado, carrying the faintest echo of clinking coins. Saxon chieftains poured silver into sacred hearths before battle bribes for fierier blessings. The ash falls, revealing a single wolf tooth atop the stone, yellowed, split down the root. You pocket it, because why not? The roots grown, settling deeper into the earth. Dawn's first blush seeps through the trees, turning smoke scars to gold leaf. One root uncurls, gesturing eastward, where the orchard thins into mist. Your boot leaves a perfect print in the ash toes, pointing toward a half-collapsed wall. Behind the hearth exhales, its final breath tasting of time and extinguished rebellions. You trace the collapsed wall's outline, crumbled limestone biting your palm. Beyond it, hazel branches knit a lattice against the bruise-purple sky. A dome of twigs sways in the breeze, its architecture defying gravity and common sense. Striped feathers cling to the nest's rim, banded like a badger's pelt. Leaning closer, you catch the sour milk scent of fledgling droppings. Empty, save for a single eggshell fragment. 9th century chronicles claim Saxon kings hid in woven nests during Viking raids, royalty reduced to crouching among twigs. Imagine the negotiations. Forget the throne. This wren condo has great sightlines, brushing moss from the hazel trunk. Your nail snags on a groove. Spirals carved deep, a bull's horns, or maybe waves. Folklore insists saplings grafted during lunar eclipses grew sentient. But that's probably just mead-fueled dendrology. A feather drifts onto your wrist, barred brown and gold. You twirl it, remembering peasant children wore wren feathers as amulets against night vapors. Modern reenactors swear they cure allergies, though sneezing through a wool tunic might skew results. The nest creaks, a twig snaps. Inside, something glints. Tweezing it free reveals a wheat stalk, its head plaited into a crude crown. Historians still argue whether straw kings were decoys during battles, or just drunk harvest festival volunteers. Mud squelches underfoot, you pivot, sending pebbles skittering. The nest trembles, shedding bark scales. Saxon tax records mention bird tithe shelters. Could this be where lords hid from their own coin counters? Breeze gusts. The straw crown unravels against your palm. Threads cling, spun with horsehair and willow fiber. You pocket a strand, because historical kleptomania is technically research. 14 generations of mice have nibbled this hazel, their tooth marks mapping dynasties. Moonlight snags on the nest's underside, a rusted ring dangles there. Too small for a finger, unless you're into pinky armor. Maybe a child's offering, or a finch's misguided bling. Your shadow stretches, merging with the hazel's knotty silhouette. For a breath, you've got antlers. 9th century laws find anyone impersonating royalty a real buskle for amateur thespians. Off with his head. Loses charm when the fine's 12 sheep. The nest sags lower, you catch it instinctively. Your fingers sink into ancient mud daub, still damp after centuries. Natural mortar recipe. Spit ash, and what smells suspiciously like fermented blackberries. Something tickles your ear, a spider evacuating its web. Its silk drags across your neck, mimicking a blade's edge. Chroniclers wrote of assassins using spider venom, but that scroll in the maybe metaphors section of the archives. 3 hazelnuts roll from the nest, each shell scarred by bite marks. Squirrel, or very dedicated scribe. You crush one underheel, releasing oil that smells of candle wax and regret. Wind rifles through your pockets, tugging the feather into darkness. Legends say stray wren plumes guided lost king's home, GPS for the crown impaired. Yours cartwheels toward the river, flipping history, the bird. The straw king's crown disintegrates further. Golden straws litter your sleeve. You're now monarch of lint and poor decisions. A beetle marches across your boot, carrying a leaf fragment like a soggy standard. Dawn leaks through the branches. The nest's shadow stretches into a crooked scepter. Your knees protest as you stand. Nobility was never ergonomic. The hazel shivers, dropping a final nut onto your head. Rubbing the bump, you notice carved letters on the trunk, Ejifu peeking through lichen. A woman's name, or a recipe for headache tonics. Maybe both. The river's murmur swells, carrying the feather's twin downstream. Your path diverges there toward waterlogged mysteries. But here, the nest's last twig snaps, applauding your exit. Your boot scrapes against slate, the sound ricochets off mossy oaks. Ahead, a flat stone slab glints wetly in the lantern's sway. Those stains aren't shadows, thick and tar-black, pooling where grooves meet. You crouch damp seeping through your kneecaps. The lantern trembles, its light skittering sideways like a spooked cat. Saxon will's list, stone drink, rituals, ancestors believed pouring ale here sped prayers to the gods. Tonight's offering smells metallic, iron and regret. A beetle trundles across the slab, its shell iridescent as oil on water. It veers sharply around the stain's nature's own hazard cones. 10th century monks wrote of blood moss growing where sacrifices pooled, though that's likely just bad parchment preservation. Your shadow stretches over the stone, distorting into a long-fingered giant. Blink, and it's yours again. A 90s metal detectorist swore he found a coke confused to the rock. But that's just archaeology's version of fan fiction. Wind hisses through nearby yews, the lantern gutters. For half a breath, the stains seem to crawl. You lean closer, charred crumbs stick to your sleeve. Incense ash, or burnt barley cakes. The debate's drier than the crusts. Something buzzes by your ear, a mayfly drawn to the light. It lands on the darkest stain, wings fanning twice before falling still. Historians still argue whether these were sacrificial sites or just really committed picnic spots. You swipe a thumb across the stone, cold leaches into your nail. The groove feels deliberate, a channel carved to direct liquid flow. Or maybe erosion's a passive-aggressive artist. Your lantern casts rabbit-shaped shadows, hopping away from the slab. A twig snaps behind you, you pivot, lantern swinging wild. The flame catches a cobweb, igniting it into a tiny supernova. Congrats, you just annihilated someone's retirement home. Spider karma's real. Ask any medieval tapestry. The slab's edge bears scratch marks, 3 parallel grooves. Animal claws, or a bored shepherd's tally marks. 17 lines crosshatch the stone. Someone counted moons here, or sheep, or regrets. Rain begins, fat drops pockmark the stains. They ripple as if the stone breathes. Your lantern hisses, wick protesting the damp. 8th century laws find anyone who disturbed the speaking stones. Apparently drizzle counts as small talk. Lightning flickers. The world becomes a daguerreotype. In that frozen white, the stains gleam slick and fresh. Thunder grumbles, the lantern dims to a sulky ember. You're now trespassing in a moody British noir film. The downpour washes earth from the slab's base, revealing a child's handprint. Fingers splayed, smaller than your palm. Saxon toddlers didn't do OSHA certifications. Let's hope little Ethelstan washed his hands post-sacrifice. Your sleeve drips onto the stone water, swirls the stains into inky tendrils. They coil toward the drainage channel, resigned as a retiring accountant. The lantern sputters, its glass fogged with rebellion. A root cracks underfoot. You stumble, elbow connecting hard with ancient rock. Pain radiates up your funny bone, which isn't funny. 9th century slapstick involved actual slaps, so count your blessings. The slab shudders, or maybe that's your pulsing arm. Rain drums louder, a million impatient fingers. Historians love debating ritual acoustics, but right now, it just sounds like tinnitus. Lightning again, this time, the stains reflect nothing. Hollow black, like pupils dilating. Your breath hitches, but the moment shatters with thunder. The lantern surrenders its flame, guttering out with a petulant hiss. Darkness breathes. You fumble for matches, pockets yielding lint and a hazelnut shell. The storm laughs. A gust snatches your last strike. 18 generations of ancestors side-eye your preparedness. Blind, you trace the slab's edge. Stone bites your fingertips, names carved where no one reads. Wolf, Sinathrith, Thunner, signatures, weathering into anonymity. Rain slips down your collar, reminds you that chainmail hoods had perks. A wet plop hits your forehead, not rain. Slimy, warm bat. Owl pellet. You opt for blissful ignorance. The Saxons worshipped thunder gods, but forgot to mention aerial biohazards. Muscle memory guides you backward, heels skidding on mud. The slab's presence lingers, a toothache in the dark. 17 steps, and brambles snag your sleeve. Nature's way of saying stay for the next ritual. Your thumb brushes the dead lantern, glass still warm. It winks once, phantom light, then nothing. Somewhere, a nightjar shrieks, its cry swallowed by the storm. Dawn loiters on the horizon, a grudging gray smear through clouds. The stone fades into the gloom, its stains now just water and shadow. You inhale wet wool and petrichor the orchard, holding its tongue. One final drop slides off the slab, tapping Morse code on a buried ale jug.